Supposedly it's live now. Okay, Facebook is live.
What's up, Facebook?
Yeah, YouTube is live too.
Hell yeah.
Let me do a quick double check on my phone. All right, we're all good.
Sweet as.
Check the audio too. All right, we're all good.
Yo.
Confirmed.
Hell yeah.
Okay, so I actually titled this. The title of the conversation on YouTube is "Veganism Debunked." I don't know why I was trying to figure out what to
Nice.
call it, but I was like, huh.
Clickbait.
Uh,
Wait, maybe they think we're going to debunk it, then they'll be
but
fooled
I
very
actually
well.
thought maybe we can start by what's the best argument you've ever heard against veganism? What's the best one? You know, there are a lot of dumb ones, or you know, when people ask you about protein, you probably can just you know, flex. That answers it. But what's the toughest? You know, what do you think is one of the better arguments or hardest one to respond to?
Yeah, I think the hardest one to respond to, actually, I don't think it's a good argument. I don't think there's any good arguments personally.
Agreed.
I can't recall ever hearing someone say something. No, actually, I'll give them one. So I think that it's not an argument against veganism, but you know they make an argument um, that you can find hard to grapple with, which would be that they overall may lead to less harm or killing. Let's say it would be obviously a very specific example, and you know it would be hard to prove. And a lot of people who make this argument would still be wrong. They would say, "Well, I just eat one cow a year or something," and you know the equivalent a vegan would generally, you know, potentially cause a death a year based on you know 1 million calories and crop deaths and things like that. And someone might say the same thing. Well, I only kill one cow a year, so we're the same, without factoring into what the cow needs to eat and the animals that the cow may stand on and the amount of land cleared for the cow's food and to graze and all these things. But I think that it can be, at least for a lot of people, one where they find it hard to grapple with. But I think that actually it's not a great argument because you know you can easily explain that it's not just about harm; it's about rights violations. It's about weighing all these things into the equation. And even if you were just talking on purely a harm principle, you would still fall short of what the vegan is causing or contributing to because of just based on the numbers. But so I don't really think that's a great argument, but an argument that I find hard to grapple with because they don't use logic is when people use their religion to justify violence against animals. And I think it's hard because you're working under a different system. You're working under a system that isn't based on facts and logic. It's based on faith, belief, and believing that they know what God said and thinking that God condones some sort of violence towards animals. So I, for a long time, and I, you know, I don't think it's a bad thing to do. Hang on, man. One sec.
I hear a cat.
Get out of here. That's my cat Dexter.
Or
Yeah,
a cat or a baby.
both. My cat is both, dude. Yeah, so I think that like a long time ago I found it important to learn how the Bible or other religions interact with animals. And you can say things like the Garden of Eden was vegan and thou shalt not kill, and sort of do all this kind of thing. But I got quite tired of doing that, to be honest. I started feeling like it was a bit dishonest of me, because the truth was that I felt like I was arguing over what a fairy tale says. And I'm giving verses in favor of what I believe. They're giving verses in favor of what they believe. And it didn't feel very strong to me. So I focus more on the root of that, actually, which is understanding why people have religious beliefs. And that I found a lot more powerful. Like, yeah, it was many years ago I started focusing on what more like attacking the whole religious argument. How can you prove this? Like, what is your best evidence to prove that you have the word of God? And just sort of asking more questions like that makes people really question: do they even can they even prove what they believe? And yeah, I found that was a really important thing to do, because in my belief, I really got interested in this kind of topic because of veganism, because I was trying to advocate for animals. And it sort of dawned on me after some time that, this is controversial, I think, but I don't think it should be. It dawned on me that it's a problem when we have massive amounts of people in the world, adults, who believe sort of the equivalent of a fairy tale, thinking they have divine revelation, which creates massive division amongst us all. Some people think they know and everyone else doesn't, and some are sinners, and well, everybody's apparently a sinner, and some are going to heaven and some aren't, and like really crazy stuff, man. I mean, that like some religions stone gay people, some religions just think it's wrong in general to, like, I've seen some stuff lately on social media about pretty clearly gay guys saying that they prayed the gay away and all this kind of stuff, man, and
Yeah.
it's upsetting. But what's mostly, that's upsetting, but it's really upsetting when they're justifying violence. So yeah, just going on this path of finding the reasons why people believe what they believe, and regarding this, and attacking that felt like a much stronger way to
Sure.
advocate for animals and beat the argument.
Yeah, it's pursuing truth, right? Because reaching veganism is one way. It's one of the conclusions of trying to pursue truth in your life. I mean, I grew up eating meat, eggs, dairy. I wasn't vegan back then. I was I wasn't like super religious, but I definitely believed in God, and had some religious beliefs. Um, I'm from Iran, and also it's like it's worse than Christianity in a way that the process of losing my faith in Islam or God or whatever, it was like scary. Like, yeah,
Mm.
I don't really think like believing in God does much in my life, but I would never like it felt scary to be an atheist, because like if you're wrong, then you're like, and it's funny actually. Just a few days ago, I
That's
opened
interesting.
Quran just randomly, and like every
Mm.
page I went, it was like you're gonna be burning in fire, and if you don't believe in me. And it just sounded like a guy who's very needy and wants a lot of attention. But
Yeah,
I would say this, like,
egomaniac.
I'm definitely like atheist, and I always think that if veganism wasn't a thing, I would probably talk about um, atheism a lot.
Mm,
um, because again, but for the same reason you mentioned, I think like I want people to act morally and ethically because they believe so, not because of a book. I mean, a good test
mm.
for that is like, if the book wasn't there, would you just walking around and like raping people and killing, I don't know, killing people, if the book didn't tell you that? Or if the book said you should do that, will you literally just go around and do that? Or are you like um, sort of selling all of your moral basis and ethics to this book? One thing is though,
Mm.
I found like when you have like 5-10 minutes with people, you're not gonna like change their religion. I wish I could. To me, I guess I'm still at this stage where I'm like, I'm gonna argue this within your own framework, because yeah, I'm not gonna change your Christianity or Islam. But what I can tell you is that you can still be a good Christian, you can be a good Muslim. Um, I do think that there are some of these instructions that are like inherently terrible, but I would say also a lot of times it's like people taking those instructions very superficially, such as like dominion. And then when you ask
Mhm.
them, what do you think actually dominion meant? They haven't thought about this. They have their version of it, but I don't even think that was what it was meant to say. Like people talk about the dominion, but they forget that like 3 verses later, it literally says, "I put plants on on earth for use." Like,
Yeah.
or like when I say, okay, like forget about all these stories. What do you like describe your God to me? And everyone says like kind, compassionate, merciful. And I was like, if you go to a slaughterhouse, will you find those qualities in a slaughterhouse? Uh, but I totally get that, it's really hard to do that because we shouldn't even be going there. Oh, another thing I wanted to say,
Mm.
even with people who are supposedly logical, though, they do the same thing as religious people, which is cherry picking, right? So I think
Yeah.
the difficulty with having conversations with religious people is like they cherry pick what fits their point of view, right? If there are 90 verses saying that you shouldn't be eating animals or you should be kind and what blah blah blah, they forget all of that. They pick one, like Jesus ate fish. And now like this is the reason that we eat meat, eggs, dairy, and all that. But I feel like sometimes even non-religious people do the same thing. Like you can tell them that there is there's strong evidence suggesting that plant-based diet is absolutely sufficient, in many cases beneficial, but they're just going to ignore that. I mean, I feel like non-religious people do the same thing. I feel like it's like human mentality that when they feel they're under attack, no amount of data, logic, and it's just they're not going to think about it no matter what you tell them.
Yeah. It's it's a really fascinating thing to come up against, and we would have done the same thing for some time before we eventually the logic won and we went vegan. It's a really fascinating, dive into human psychology when one you go vegan, then you question your whole life, and then you look at everybody else and you see them justifying it horrific violence and suffering and just the worst imaginable treatment of other beings you could think of and the worst mentality to have towards others that we would in a second see how immoral it is when it's towards if it was towards us or other humans generally. And then yeah, you just see all these people using these poor excuses to do anything, let alone to inflict massive amounts of violence. And that it is a huge fear thing. Even me, I wasn't religious, I would say at all, but I didn't realize that there was still quite a lot to deconstruct from. I still as far deep as I went into atheism and questioning all these things so that I could just have the arguments, I noticed that a lot of stuff still came up for me about, but what if when I die, and but what if my mind is not my own and it's being paid attention to, and a lot of scary stuff. And it's built like that, right? So that you do fear it, you don't want to question it, because if God's watching and he sees you questioning, then already you're making a mistake. Already you're upsetting him, and that's not what you want to do, because he's a vengeful God. So yeah, it's built into the package, which is really unfortunate, because I think it really holds people back from just critically thinking and stepping back and allowing themselves to, go through these trains of thoughts that will help them deconstruct. And there's so much benefit in deconstructing. Like, for example, I was just before we talked, I was in a conversation with somebody, and well, with a lot of people, and about this, in a thread on Instagram, and they said, "But what if you're wrong? What if you are wrong? We'll see you at the end, and you'll wish you thought like us. We're not. It's not going to harm us at all to think like this. But you, when we get to the end, will have a big problem." I said, well, it is actually harming you to have all these beliefs. Like, first of all, the justification of violence. You mentioned the phrasing around dominion in the Bible, for example. And we both just commented on a book the other day called Eternal Treblinka by Charles Patterson. So in that book, which I read many years ago, which is the comparisons of what we do to animals and the treatment of, by Nazis in the Holocaust, in the concentration camps and all this kind of thing. And just the whole system parallels the production line in animal agriculture and the treatment of them and all of these kind of things. A lot of the Nazi behavior was adopted from the production line in the slaughterhouse, and seeing animals as less than, and that's why they called them rats and all this kind of stuff. But one of the things that I will always remember from that book was that phrase dominion, according to this book, which seemed very well researched, was one of the worst things that could have ever happened to animals, because it gave people this reason to believe that they could dominate and do whatever they want to animals because they were put here for us. And it was as simple as that. And I'm really loving seeing this sort of new wave of vegans, or at least vegan advocacy, where they're really focusing on the mentality, and animals aren't here for us to use, and it attacks that argument very strongly about having dominion over them and what that really means and things like that. Not that it should mean anything, it's just a book that people wrote 2,000 years ago. We can't expect them to have the best moral system, and they didn't. But my people still cling on to it very strongly. So I always think about that, and I think that's why I got really passionate about the deconstruction of religion from the ground up, because yeah, I just felt like while that's sort of baked into their, into their psyche, it's they're never going to look at animals the way that they should, and yeah, so I don't know. It's something that it is hard. Like, if you've got 5 or 10 minutes with somebody, yeah, it's probably not the best approach to be trying to, deconstruct someone's religion. But you can say the same thing, I think, about veganism. If you've got 5 or 10 minutes, good luck. Good luck trying to get someone to just go vegan. And it's about planting seeds and giving them a different perspective and something to think about. And maybe you will completely change your life in 5 or 10 minutes. It happens all the time, but often it doesn't happen as well. So I think still there seeds to be planted, and yeah, it's just become something increasingly important to me. I think that I don't want to see. I think this is a big cause of a lot of problems in the world, quite honestly. And yeah, I'm not the best at helping people go down that route. I'm still learning a lot about it, but yeah, it's just something I've found to be increasingly a big problem, and it kind of just shocks me. It shocks me that people eat animals and call themselves
Yeah.
animal lovers and all this, but it also shocks me how easily people will give up their critical thinking and basically give their moral system and adopt the beliefs of whatever their particular religion says, because they've been born and indoctrinated and grown up this way. And yeah, it's a tough thing to argue in 5 or 10 minutes. I'll have to agree with you there.
Yeah, but I do fully agree with you. I think I always say, I don't say that publicly a lot, so here it goes. But like I think to me, veganism and atheism are very much aligned. Like I think I followed the same path to reach both. I grew
Mm,
up being told that I needed meat, and it tasted good. It was habit. It was lack of questioning and knowledge too. Like you never saw what happens to animals. You never had the opportunity to question things. Same thing with religion. You just grow up in that environment. My parents weren't even religious, by the way. It was like mostly
mm,
in classrooms, and my best friends were religious, and you just wanted to fit in that group as well. So it's like it's just like veganism, right? Just like eating
mm.
animals, I guess. And when I started questioning this stuff, then same thing happened. I became vegan. I became atheist. Um, the challenge that sometimes I have is I do agree. Like I 100% agree with you. I think the root cause of like what we do to animals is a symptom of not thinking critically and not having a good
Mm.
moral baseline. And the same thing can happen in like religious stuff when people use religion to oppress, gay people or so all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
women,
I guess the
children.
challenge that sometimes I have is like, do I want rather like someone be Christian and showcase that you can still be a Christian and be vegan? Oftentimes when someone is, Christian, I just like offer them the book
Mhm.
Dominion, written by a Christian and conservative, and I think the book does a fantastic job talking about like what Dominion really means. Um, and Yeah, at least that way people can so I say it
It's
this way:
one
if there
job.
is,
It's one job to do versus two big jobs to do.
yeah,
One step at a time.
if
I
there
don't
is
think there's
one
anything
thing I
wrong with.
want people to do right now, I rather them
Yes.
believe in
Yeah.
fairy tales but stop killing animals.
I totally agree. If you have just a small amount of time, I totally respect it. I think, look, like when I came into, it's funny. Like, let me try to explain something. When I became vegan, or when I at least was looking into the vegan movement and considering doing my vow of silence, when I was considering doing that, I was still not vegan. I had just become vegetarian. I had just done a 10-day vipassana meditation. I just started thinking maybe I could do a vow of silence for some sort of positive reason. Didn't really know what yet. And I realized I'm very passionate about animals all of a sudden, which is crazy because I never cared about animals. But this is just seeming extremely important on so many levels. Um, I was considering it then, and when man, I lost my train of thought. What did you just say? Can you remind me?
So this is how you actually became vegan, right? Like with that meditation retreat or something.
Yeah,
Was-
I mean, no, that's where I had my idea to do the vow of silence. But I went vegetarian first, hearing about eating animals being bad karma, and then later when I watched Gary's speech and watched Earthlings, I realized, oh, it's not just about eating meat. We shouldn't be doing any of this stuff. And then I started my vow of silence on the day that I went vegan. Oh, I remember now. So when I was looking into the vegan movement, part of the reason why I did it for animals when I was still not even vegan until the day I started my vow of silence and just sort of falling into it is because I felt like I could be of use. I felt like at that time I was super laid back and chill, and what I could see peeking in was, a lot of people very passionate, um, but not that I didn't see a very welcoming, encouraging, like kind of energy so much. It was a bit more balanced towards shaming and, like how it is. It's more like the stereotype. At least that's how I saw it. So I felt like I'd be of some use because I've been a personal trainer for many years. I was pretty good at helping people, influencing them to do things that were outside of their comfort zone for a greater good for themselves. And it was a very encouraging approach that I had. I wasn't like a I wouldn't fat shame people or something like that. If I wanted to lose weight, I'd be like, "You're doing great, excellent, yeah, one step at a time." And years later, I saw a lot more of that kind of approach bloom. And I thought, great. And then, Gary was gone. And when I looked at the movement, I felt like, wait a second, I felt like it needed to kind of balance in the other way. I didn't see, Gary's presence was gone, and there didn't feel like there was a lot of really like hard ass kind of fuck you animal abusers, and I don't think everybody should be like that or like that. But I felt like, hang on a second, all my people are looking at how I do things now. I had a big following, and a lot of people were looking up to me to how to do animal rights activism. And I had this sort of very strong kind of epiphany of like, I need to change my lane here, because I don't want everyone. I want someone doing it like that. I want someone a little more aggressive about it, a little more shaming. It has its place, and yeah, I adopted that approach and whatever. But so when it comes to discussing religion with people, you can talk about veganism, you can talk about religion. I see a lot of people now, as I peek in, just from my perspective, doing that. They might give the book Dominion or discuss that what happens in a slaughterhouse. You think that Jesus, the Prince of Peace, would be okay with this? Just these kind of questions, which also is a great approach. But one thing I didn't really see much of at all was the someone confronting the beliefs at the root. And it's not that I think like that should be done. Everybody should adopt this, and that's a only or best way. I just felt like it was another thing that should happen. At least that should at least be, someone should be planting those kind of seeds out there. And yeah, that's why I just felt like, okay, maybe you're going to do it. What you just said, you're going to help people become vegan within the confines of their religion. And for me, as I said, I'm not the best at it because there's so much to unpack. But yeah, I did make quite a bit of growth in just asking the right questions to lead people towards realizing that maybe their religion is just equivalent to a fairy tale.
Actually, we take both approaches, and if I pick one, it's actually the one that you just mentioned. Um, I think I differentiate maybe between the public approach versus like when I actually have a one-on-one conversation. For me personally, it's like a lot of
Mm,
times like how lost is this person is,
mm,
um, you know, um, and but I would say one of the biggest changes in my vegan life. I've been vegan for 15 years. I think for the first half, um, it wasn't really like a deep rooted idea in my life. It was more like, holy fuck, what are we doing to these animals? And I need to do
mm,
something about it. But veganism was like not eating meat and eggs and dairy and not using animal products and stuff like that. And even back then, when I started, I volunteered for a lot of organizations. To me, it was like just everything was animal rights, So I did cage-free campaigns, I did welfarism stuff.
mhm,
Anything animal rights was happening, I just volunteered. But over time, I think especially like with Anonymous for the Voiceless, and hanging out with a lot of other people, like reading more about it, it really became exactly what you say. And to me, now it's the mentality that I try to question rather than like the treatment and suffering and exploitation, stuff like that. It's like, my favorite thing to say is like the issue with slavery wasn't that we were like mean to people, and the solution wasn't that let's just give them more room and better. It's like it's the way you look at people is the
mm.
issue. And with
Yeah.
veganism, it's like I don't really care about, I'm not talking about like what you're eating. I'm like how you're looking at animals. Are you looking at them as
Mm,
resource and slave? Are they livestock to you? Are they stock and
mm.
objects to you? And if yes, then that's really the core issue that we need to be talking about, not um you know oh, it's
Improving their welfare.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
I
mhm.
hear you, man. Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Yeah, I completely agree. It was in my first year as a vegan during my vow of silence, I realized there was quite a big distinction amongst people advocating for animals with the rights and abolition and the improving in the welfare. And I watched a lot of debates about it. Read a bunch of Gary Francione. I listened to every single audio that he has ever done, pretty much. As I was cycling across Australia, it was just me and Gary, and I came to a similar conclusion that let the people who want to fight for welfare, but someone who believes like we do, that's a pretty rare thing in the world. And I don't want to, I only have so much time. I don't want to split that time by arguing for something where a lot more people will believe in just improving welfare and things like that. Even non-vegans, some of them focus on that. So I just wanted to focus on the thing that was the core issue, which I just said is the way we look at them. And even in my first, I've been vegan. Uh, it'll be 12 years coming in January. But even in my first year, the first year I'm sort of meeting cows for the first time, discarded from the dairy industry, a little calf we looked after for some weeks at a sanctuary, and going into factory farms and seeing with my own eyes and getting them out of there and all this kind of stuff, like really being up close and personal with it all. I realized it took some time before. It's not that I still saw them as they should be slaves, but it took quite some time for me to see them as people. And actually, I would say that this is probably the biggest shift in my entire mentality towards animals, because now I look at, like my cats, for example, who I'm around all day long. And it's just no question at all to me to consider them as people, just another little brain, another little heart, thinking and beating in just a slightly different body to mine. Still very similar to mine, just two legs instead of four, and fur on the outside instead of just on the top. And like they're as similar as they can get, but most people see them as totally alien, and worse than just alien, because we probably wouldn't even treat aliens this way. I hope, maybe we would. They don't see a person there at all. They just see like for me, I remember where this started. It was years back when I was asking my dad, who is very against animal cruelty, and he's been vegan for like almost as long as me now. I showed them Earthlings at some point, but back in the day, he's a smart guy. He said something like, I asked him about animals. What are these things, And the the response I took from it, at least, was basically nothing much. Like almost like how there's plants, they're a little better than plants, and then there's humans somewhere. And I think the best, it's not just that my actions have changed accordingly, and now I don't like objectify sentient beings, leading to their horrific treatment, which is a problem. Yeah, both is a problem, because the mentality leads to the horrific cruelty and suffering. If it didn't, then I'd have a lot. I still have a problem with it, but I have a lot less of a problem with it. It is a massive, completely overcoming sense of urgency, because of it's just beyond your wildest nightmares what we do to them because of this mentality. So the best thing is now seeing animals, and like birds, man, I'm obsessed. I'll watch them all day, or just any animal, a little lizard I see in the grass, like anybody, because now my life is so enriched by realizing how much more uh, value and there is in these little beings or big beings, and it's just been like a really amazing, beautiful shift. So it's always, I think there's lots of different types of stages of veganism. There's veganism, right? Like we get it, there's veganism, but there's different things that happen along your journey. And I really valued this part of it where, I didn't care about animals at all. And you can see some vegans, I think, who, they might still refer to an animal as it, not just because it was a slip of speech, but because they just still see it as an it, and they don't want to hurt it. But so great, that's fine, that's good, but they still don't see it as a person just like them.
Yeah.
And that's how I see it now. So yeah, I think it's it's a extremely valuable part of the process to help people just not just be like, hey, cruelty is bad. You should stop being cruel to animals. And slavery is bad, you know, whether it's comfortable conditions or not. It's also like, hey, and these are people too, right? And yeah, like it just helps you connect with, you know, connect with empathy towards them, I think,
100%
which
agree.
they
I look
deserve.
at animals and I'm like, you guys are people of different species. And sometimes when I'm trying to post about something and I'm like, I want to call animals people or person, refer to them as persons, I know that someone is gonna say, "Oh, but they're not people," or I want to say that like it's murder, but obviously,
Yeah,
like you can play this language that murder only applies to people. But like the reason you don't see this as murder because is precisely because you don't see them as people, you see them as
exactly.
objects, and therefore murder or rape don't apply. Therefore, Holocaust or slavery don't apply, which is
Hmm.
something that I really like when Gary said. Like he, I think, starts many of his speeches by saying, "Do you think slavery only applies to humans? Can you
Mm.
enslave members of other species?" And I think you're absolutely right. I think that really took veganism to another level for me when you look at these guys as just like people of other species. And it
Mm.
shouldn't take that much convincing for people. I mean, I think anyone with a grain of openness should be able to connect, especially if you believe in evolution. And that's another thing I always think. Like if you believe in evolution, you must understand there is not a lot of difference between us and the closest um, animal to us, like with like chimpanzees and other apes and
Or a
bonobos
pig.
and yeah. And so
Pigs
if
are
and
like
then
very close
to
DNA.
to whom?
To pigs.
Yes, yeah. And
Yeah.
then like once you understand that, and then obviously the same thing is true about that animal, the next closest animal, and then
Mm.
you should be understanding that we are all um, sharing the same um, kind of life. Yeah, some of our
Yeah.
more, and then it's like
Similar
so
experience.
like speciesism just means something complete. It's
Mm.
like how ironic that just because our IQ, and we also define like intelligence in a very like limited way that applies to us, and we say gold standard, like anything that doesn't fit in this doesn't matter, or is a lesser being than us. Like you just
Mm.
view them as lesser beings because it's like I always think if dogs did that, and for dogs it was vision or like hearing, or for birds
Mm.
it was like how good you see, we would be way out of their model of what's sentient or what deserves rights. It's very
Mm.
crazy.
It's it's devastating, man. You know, like I'm personally absolutely devastated by this realization, and I wouldn't change it for anything. But yeah, it's horrible to know, and it's horrible to see. It's shocking. It's always shocking. It never stops being shocking discussing this with people who are just so callous and cold towards them, just like a Nazi would be or a slave owner would be. You know, and these are just otherwise good people who think good and want to do good in the world. And it's like, man, if we can't even convince someone like you, what hope do these poor animals have? And I hate it, man. I just, it's just such a slow process of change. You know, I've been vegan 12 years now. Uh, and, I think there's been a lot of good progress in a lot of different ways, but it's still really, really barely moved the needle at all, in a lot of ways as well.
Let's talk
There's
about
just
that.
such a minority, and it's just shocking. Like, it's just unbelievable. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, and when it comes to like thinking about these animals who are intelligent in their own ways and very clear, very obvious ways, and like they're like children too, they're vulnerable. Like, sure, there's a lot of wisdom there behind their eyes, especially the longer they live and things like that. But yeah, the reasons we shouldn't hurt children are the reasons that we shouldn't hurt or whatever animals. And you'll just think that it would be a really easy thing actually to explain to people because it is. It's really clear and obvious, and a child can get it. But people are just they just can't imagine a meal without meat. Basically, they just like the equation they do is I couldn't, I couldn't, I couldn't live without meat. When I go to this person's house, we eat meat. When I go to my mum's, she cooks chickens. When everything like, and that's where I think it's really helpful to there's why go vegan, and it's a big push by everybody. The people that I at least interact with online, a huge part of the why. And I think focusing on the how as well, like I know a lot of people do, but I think it's just a really big part of it too, because it's pretty easy to explain. It's pretty easy to like. There's a couple of things that I feel like the vegan movement, the advocates, could put in their toolbox that aren't really there now, even just for their own personal enjoyment and health. Like, I think the reason some people go vegan and then turn back, someone was in one of my comments yesterday saying, I've listened to you for years. I agree with you, but after getting this deficiency and feeling like this, I had to eat meat. And I gave it to my son who's 8 and he grew more. I'm like, well, he's 8, he's grown, like that's the time to grow. But I said, did you check for deficiencies? Did you get a blood test? Did you speak to a vegan professional about this? Did you track your nutrients? What did you do before just going back to eating corpses? And there was, I don't think there was anything because she still hasn't responded. That was over 24 hours ago. But certain simple things like TVP, soy meat, textured vegetable protein, it exists. It's existed since the 60s. You can have it dry. It's super nutritious, low fat, high protein, easy as to make. And you just add some spices after soaking it and squeezing the water out, and you've got your meat substitute in all different shapes and textures. Or seitan, which I always thought was this specialty food with all these ingredients that was really hard to make. You add water to wheat gluten and some herbs and spices, whatever, and that's it. That's literally it. It's as easy as making cereal. And I don't. This is stuff I want to talk about more, and I want people to realize that it's not such a big shift. You don't need to be able to afford expensive Beyond Meat, for example, or something. We already have had this stuff for so many years that you can have just sitting in your cupboard, or a restaurant could have this in their cupboard at any time, stored in the cupboard. Doesn't need to be refrigerated. Doesn't go off. And I think a lot of benefit would come from just explaining a few of these like simple things like this, or even oat milk. People think, but I gotta buy a different milk, and they're a bit expensive where they live or something. And actually, you could just soak oats with water and strain it, and it's that easy.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these little simple, or scrambled tofu instead of scrambled eggs. There's just these really simple, practical steps on the how that I would love to see, and myself, I would love to try to encourage more. I think it would prevent a lot more of the people who are not getting, they just cut meat out and they didn't replace the nutrients that they
Yeah.
were getting, or the calories. Um, and just make veganism more accessible, easier to stick with. They don't have to change as much. It's just getting this meat to that meat. And yeah, I don't know. I just think that I don't hear people talk much about making TVP and making seitan. And for me, which I learned it many years later in veganism, only just in the recent probably 4 or so years, and I have it pretty much every day. So and my bloods, I just got them recently. They're perfect still, and they've been perfect this whole time. So yeah, as much as I love all the how, I would really love to see some just like simple, practical stuff like this more as well. I think it will
Yeah,
help a
I
lot.
think people a lot of times don't really, they underestimate themselves. And I think
Mm,
that, like, I was one of them. Like, there was a time, even when I started questioning, I said, sorry, pigs, I just love bacon so much. And like, when I look back, I think like I've never been so ashamed. Like,
mm,
when I talk about, when people say like, what is a mistake you ever made? Or what are some of the regrets I have? With mistakes that I notice and I fix them, I'm not too worried. Everybody makes mistakes. And I don't regret them. That's a part of a process. The only regret I think I have is like the period when I started thinking about animals, but it's still justified. Because when you don't know,
Mm.
you don't know. But like when you know, then you're responsible. And then like what kind of a person would say, sorry animals for a second of like my pleasure, because I was like living in Germany. I just discovered bratwurst and I was like obsessed with bratwurst. And I was like,
Mm.
it's 1 second of you dying, but I just really like this. I think if I had a friend or if somebody like really asked me a very simple question, do you think that that's a good justification? That's it. That one simple question,
Yeah.
I would have said
Interesting.
no. And if somebody pushed me a little harder, I would have changed right there, I think. But
Mm.
um, I think this, like I work in a lot of universities and I'm always talking to these extremely like smart and highly accomplished people. And you go to MIT and you talk to someone and say, they're like, yeah, I get it, but it's just really hard. I'm like, you fucking made it to MIT, right? Like you're
Yeah.
like, or somebody's
That's
like
crazy,
very,
man.
uh, you know, they're really into fitness. And I'm like, I
Mm.
have to ask them, was that easy? Is it easy to look like you?
Mm.
I'm sure you
Mm.
had to like have a schedule. I'm sure you Googled shit all the time. I'm sure
Mm.
that the discipline that it takes to show up at the gym and work out continue. I'm sure it's miserable at first, but you made it because it was worth it, because it was the right thing to do. I asked these people, I was like, you don't go vegan because it's easy, you do it because it's right. Um, I'm
Mm.
sure to get into this good university, you had to not go to a lot of party, and I'm sure a lot of your friends were partying and doing. You decided to study, and you decided to say
Yeah.
no to things that gave you pleasure at the time because it was the right thing to do, and now
Mm.
you don't regret it. And it's like now I'm telling you, and you already acknowledge that this is wrong what we are doing to animals. But cheese, like really, like is that how low humanity has become? And then you just like when you think about it, you just sound like a 4-year-old
Yeah.
that like oh
Exactly.
i just
Yeah.
oh i just really like cheese and ice cream. It's
Uh
like,
huh.
how old are you, god damn it? And
Yeah.
crazy thing is a 4-year-old would actually not do that. Like if
They
a
would,
kid
bro. They
saw
do it
what
right.
happens to animals, they would actually change. It's like
That's so
crazy.
true.
uh,
It's, as I said, totally shocking, man. That's where I think a different approach helps. Like when someone's like that, I always encouraged to educate, encourage, and inspire, and I still do. And I think it's really important to have a huge push in that kind of style. But also, I think the problem is, or at least one of them, they're so comfortable in their massive, massive death cult. Doesn't matter if they don't. Where's the shame? There's no shame. Maybe a little self shame buried deep somewhere, but mostly it's just like, well, I could change, stop eating cheese, but I don't need to. What's going to happen to me? Nothing. I'm going to completely get away with this crime against animals. No one's going to say shit to me, make me feel bad, check me. It's just not going to happen at all. So the a big motivation in people is to not be shamed. They hate it, and it works. And as I said, it was something for a long time I didn't touch that approach at all. And I don't think it should just be like this, but I've definitely added that. Now I combine educate, encourage, and inspire. But if someone's gonna force me to go there, then shame just is the next logical step for me,
yeah,
and it works. So I've got this approach now of like, those non-vegans who are they just mock veganism in every way. It's always just a joke about animals, about their suffering. I'm going to eat twice as many animals, or they see an animal getting tortured and they're like, "Yeah, I'm bacon," and all that kind of shit. I've sort of just adopted the opposite mentality, where when I see this kind of shit, I would just try to mock them as best as I can. Just make them feel like filth, just how pathetic can you be? How dumb can you be? How brainwashed are you? Listen to you pathetic corpse eating animal abusers. And there's really nowhere to go for them. There's really nowhere to go. So I found that it's necessary, man. Like, all right, so I had this person in my comments or in a comment section yesterday. There's this guy. I don't know who he is. He's a Christian guy, wearing a cross, and he's talking about animal cruelty. Some dog that got bashed or something like that. Great, mad. Million comments going, oh yeah, mate, respect animals. Yeah, I agree. And I just said, are you vegan or a hypocrite? Simple. I don't have time to like whole speech. I'm like, boom. Are you vegan or a hypocrite? Just want to plant that seed amongst your comments where no one else has said anything like that. And then there's this person who's like, um, I've followed you for years, but you're so aggressive. You're so aggressive, and this isn't the way. And like just telling me how wrong I am for that. Like I've been aggressive. That wasn't aggressive. Like
Yeah.
you can point to a lot of examples of me being aggressive, but that ain't it. And I said, listen, me asking this question is thought provoking, not aggressive. What's aggressive is probably almost definitely this guy, severely, violently aggressive in his mentality and support of the treatment towards animals that he's right here defending. So I have every right to ask this simple question, and I would have every right to shame his hypocrisy. And it would get to him. I know, like I see it all the time, and I'm a human being too. I know what it's like to be shamed and make you really go damn and question yourself and this and that. And it's powerful, It's powerful to not just pat this guy on the back, because then he's just like, oh yeah, this vegan said I should probably love all animals, but I got enough people loving me that it's whatever. I got enough support. But when it's like, hey, hypocrite, and you plant this seed of actually don't think you're so amazing just because you're setting up for a dog. In fact, shame on you for being such a hypocrite and supporting what you support. That sticks with people, man. And it doesn't mean that that's the thing that they're going to be like, oh, I need to change. But I guarantee you those kind of things rattle around in people's heads and, just help move things in the right direction. And I prefer not to be like that. I wish I could just be like, pat the back, yeah, you're moving in that direction. But I've just seen that over the years, I know that there's friends and family, for example, who've seen every single one of my posts and still didn't change. And that's where I realized what I'm doing actually isn't enough. Just talking about these things and encouraging, there needs to be actually a shame element that people feel that is like the fire that pushes them to the right thing. And some people will say, well, it actually pushes people away. And I think there's an argument to be made. But yeah, overall, I just think that it needs to be part of the process because otherwise people just are too comfortable. And that's nothing else going to make them feel uncomfortable, except for maybe themselves eventually.
I agree. Yeah. I have a lot of thoughts on that. One thing, I think to me, you are frozen, but I don't know if you are frozen to
Oh, yeah?
yourself.
I look fine on my end.
Okay.
Everything working fine. Hang on, what's this? What the fuck's that? What about now?
I can
I'm good?
hear you. It's just the video is. Maybe turn off your camera and turn it back on for a second.
All right, one sec. It's good? No. Can't see my camera. Yeah, everything is cool on my end, bro. Well, I wonder what happened. Yeah, I got no clue. You want me?
No, yeah, I hear you. I'm just want to see if it's not frozen on YouTube, then we should be fine.
No worries, man.
Okay, it looks like on YouTube is good, so doesn't matter.
Nice.
But so about shame. So one thing I found is when you talk to a person, shame itself is not necessarily bad. I think if we manage to get the person feel the shame internally versus like from us, that's always preferred. Like, I'm not telling you that you're an animal abuser, but you understand that it's um, and I think if we can navigate that, it's always very impactful.
Mm.
um, and the way I really like to inspire people, right? And so when they say, "Oh, I just really like meat," I'm like, "I did too. You don't become vegan because stop liking the taste of
Hmm.
meat." Um, but if you went like, I give them the slavery example. Like, if you went 200 years ago, this is normal, this is legal, it's wrong. Would you rather be the part of history where you just go with it, or do you want to do the right thing? And everybody almost says, I want to do the right thing. When they say I'm being selfish, I'm like, we all have like a selfish part. I usually say, like, we all have a selfish, greedy, the prick side of us, and we also all have the kind and compassionate and strong side of us. And
Mm.
you already, that both of them are already you. Which version would you rather be 10 years if you look back? And everybody almost says like the version that actually does the right thing. So I really like to inspire people to really, if I can, at least that's always
Hmm.
like preferred, trying to, like, instead of me telling you that you're a bad person, to see, to make them understand that, like, you told me that you respect animals, you love animals, whatever it is,
Mm.
you're back, thank God. So
Absolutely.
but do you think, like, seeing that contradiction internally, I think it's very
Mm.
powerful. But there is literally a book, Is Shame Necessary? And it really talks about what you just said. I think, like, social
Yeah, I have
pressure,
to read that.
yeah, social pressure is really important, especially when it comes to fur. I really like those campaigns, because especially because not everybody wears fur, and people wear it because they think it's like really cool. And then there is a sticker that I really like, this idea people put on people, like, people who wear fur. It's just like, I'm an asshole, I wear fur.
Yeah.
Because if they understand that this is not looking cool to the rest of the society, they stop doing it. I think
Yep.
that there are a lot of psychos out there, and if it wasn't because of the societal pressure that rape and murder are wrong, a lot of people would probably do a lot of horrible shit.
Mm.
Legality aside, I think,
Definitely.
if what is stopping people from doing a lot of horrible things is just the social pressure. So I think on a societal
Yep.
level, that shame is absolutely necessary. Indeed, I was telling one of my students yesterday. They went to a fishing competition, and I said, they went there to actually talk to people. And I was like, that's so
Oh,
good,
okay.
because when
Mm.
people are fishing, they literally think that they are looking really cool. And if
Yeah.
10 people went to say, bro, you're killing animals, like, why are you killing
Mm.
animals? they don't
Mm.
they don't even think about, they don't even
Nah.
consider fish as animals. Like, if somebody comes,
Yeah.
why are you killing animals, or suffocating them?
Uh
uh,
huh.
I think
I'm
if you
throwing
did
them
that,
back.
yeah, at some point they're like, maybe this is not as cool as I thought
Uh
it
huh.
would be. So I definitely agree that, like, shame is definitely one of the ways to change people. I want to ask you this.
Mm.
So you said, the change is very very slow and all that. Like, we are still a minority of a minority. Um, I've been having this realization in the past couple of years that, given our small numbers, and given the fact that the non-vegan population is growing faster, um, like, there is only one way that we can grow, and that's by exponential growth. That means that the raw number of vegans doesn't matter as much as whether the vegans we already have today are speaking up. If those
Mm.
are cupcake vegans, the same ones that, oh, I'm not gonna, judge
Yeah.
anyone. Like, yeah, of course we need to judge people. It's like, it's given. Like, if somebody was beating a kid or a dog, you're not. I'm not gonna, like, you do you. I'm not gonna judge you. Of
Nah.
course you could do something. But unfortunately, a lot of vegans have that mentality, and I think one of the biggest successes of the sort of uh, carnivore perspective, or the meat industry, is like labeling vegans as militant, as aggressive, so that vegans self censor, so that we don't speak up because we are worried
Totally.
to be called aggressive. And it's like, yeah, like militant vegan. When I imagine a militant vegan is like a vegan with AK-47s, like shooting at people, trying to get them. It's like, in
Yeah,
reality, you're saying like, I think if you say you love animals and you're eating them, you're a hypocrite, and that's suddenly like aggressive. Like, get a fucking perspective. Like, go to a slaughterhouse
totally,
and
man.
let's chat about what's aggressive. So to me, it's like
Indeed.
perhaps the only way to really reach animal liberation or like dismantle factory farms, at least in our lifetime, is really by motivating vegans to speak up. Because if one vegan
Mm,
turns a few vegans in a year vegan, that's already like exponential. It's crazy.
mm. Yeah,
What
it's
are
a
your
really
thoughts?
good point, and I'm gonna take on what you said there because it's something I think I used to talk about a lot more, trying to encourage vegans, and then I just sort of ended up leading more by example. But it's actually a really great point, and I'm gonna make more of an effort to encourage the vegans that already exist to do a little more, or to do a lot more. I think something that when it comes to shaming people or just you making an effort to do something because this problem exists. And yeah, as you said, if it was children or women or something like that, you would do something, right? Of course. So it's totally illogical to stay silent as a vegan. It doesn't mean you have to you know, rescue animals from slaughterhouses or get an AK and kill animal abusers. But there's so much that we can do before we get to that point. And I think the best thing, like as you said, right, people view vegans a certain way. There's this big stereotype about this weak, sickly, extremist vegan. And you're right. I think we do a lot of self-censoring because we don't want to fit that label. I definitely did for many years. I really just tried to be like the person that could relate to any non-vegan, very encouraging, welcoming, still honest, but and clear. But I just tried to remain very likable towards them and that kind of thing. Know that I was a vegan they could come to, and we could just have a discussion, and it's all good. And I would just be happy with whatever seeds I planted. And over the years, I feel like, as honest as it was in many ways, there was some dishonesty there. Because if I'm really honest about how I feel, then the conversation changes. And there's just too many people who hear this message and do nothing. There's too many people who understand and just still don't give a shit and are happy to stay comfortable in their death cult. And what I would encourage everyone to do is be as really think about how you feel about this issue. Really think about what the victims are going through. Just pure hell. Just it's just you can't even put it into words. It's just absolute terrorism at the highest level to trillions of earthlings every fucking year. And it hurts to know. It hurts just to know. So yeah, what I try to do now is be really honest with how I feel about it. Instead of sort of tiptoeing and playing this game, like now I feel like what the world needs is just raw honesty about the situation. And I found that to be really helpful in giving people clarity, because if you are just you think about the scale of the situation, or let's say we replace cows with humans. We're not going to just be how we are right now. It's just true. We're not going to be just having a chat, and letting people move on. And to a degree, we're doing it, honestly, but also to a degree, we are really like swallowing our thoughts and feelings, our honest thoughts and feelings. And because we don't want to look extreme, we don't want to push people away, we've got all this shit in our head. And hey, maybe some of it's valid. I'm not saying it's not. Maybe some strategy works. But yeah, what I just have found is important is I kind of just sort of felt like I don't really care, and maybe I should, but this is just my honest feeling right now. I don't really care if some study says that you should advocate without shame or in a certain way or whatever, because it's just not. First of all, like studies have their flaws, you know. It's just not directly specific enough to the situation, and so I just prefer to go with as honest as I can be about it. Like really just tell people, all right, well, it's just a mass equation. It's like if you act like this is what you are. And if you do this, okay, then this is what you are. And I just try to be like, because it's hard to get that, right? It's hard to get that in general. Most people aren't vegan. A lot of vegans won't be so honest. And even ones that are honest may still just be trying to suppress for the sake of strategy.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just one thing that I've felt like that's why I'm doing rap music now actually because it's my first song is called Psychopathic Tendencies. And it would be really hard for me to have a one-on-one conversation with somebody, calling them a psychopath for 5 minutes, you know, like diagnosing this person as a psychopath and they're just going through the reasons why they have psychopathic tendencies. You know, people just won't stand for it. And it doesn't really flow in a kind of linear back and forth conversation, which is why I really appreciate finding this new way to use my voice because you know, it's a avenue that you are expected to offend. It's like a comedian, you know, you're expected to say outlandish shit and push the boundaries and question the culture. Um, so like when people, you know, when non-vegans reacted to my song, I was half expecting them to be like, fuck, they're going to be pissed that I spent 5 minutes calling them psychopaths. But because it's packaged in this way that they already understand and appreciate and expect, they're like, yeah, I get it. You know, we say don't offend us vegans, and yet we are paying people to slaughter cows. You know, yeah, it makes sense. That's why we're psychopaths. We need a mental health assessment. It's just a way I've found to be really honest about it. So yeah, and there's other ways. Like you know, there's a lot of ways to advocate. You can have one-on-one conversations, which is like probably one of the best ways ever. Speeches, music, films, all this stuff, and yeah, I think people just got to find their voice in the way that they can be the most honest.
I have so much to say there. First of all, honesty, I think, has been the best tool in my box for both being effective and being not burning out. Because I realized that
Mm.
when you're trying to just fake it and like put a smile, on your face, go with the bullshit excuses that you have without just expressing yourself. Like if you're frustrated about what happens to animals, just say that. And
Mm.
I think people generally confuse being confrontational with just being honest. And being honest does not mean disrespectful. And it's
Mm.
so counterintuitive that the more honest you are, the more real you are. Like nobody likes
Yeah.
a salesperson, nobody likes a people pleaser.
Mhm.
But we are like society conditions us to be that way. Like it's polite to say this, it's impolite to say no, and
Exactly.
it's like we sometimes, a lot of times, we let ourselves down. Like, how many times have you done things that you didn't want to do just because you couldn't say no? Like, we just disregard ourselves. And then, more importantly, in this case, we are disregarding animals. We are letting down our values. We sit at this
Yeah.
table that we don't want to be sit at. We don't want to sit at just because we don't want to be that guy. We don't. It's like, just be real. And it doesn't mean that you have to be disrespectful. And it's like, that's my new passion, to just tell people you can
Mm.
have both. It's not between this and that.
Yeah.
And an example of that is, actually, I tell you this: I was invited to be the best man in my one of my friends from college, his wedding. And first of all, I hate weddings to begin with, even if they're vegan. I don't want to go to weddings. Two, it wasn't vegan. Three, I don't like weddings in general. Like the idea of, you're my wife,
Uh-huh.
husband, whatever. It's just like government,
Mm.
please. I have so many
Yeah.
issues with it, but none of that matters
Okay.
here. It's just like, but they love me, so they wanted me to be the best man. And I was like, oh shit. And then at first I was like making excuses. I'm going to be traveling
Mm.
or whatever. But I was
Yeah.
like, fuck that. If this is how you feel, just let them know. So I said,
Mm.
first of all, I don't like crowds. Two, I know that the wedding is not going to be vegan, and so I'll just be miserable being there. I can't
Yeah.
even enjoy.
Mhm.
How
Mm.
about I visit you later, and then we just go. We have one-on-one time. I know that in the wedding, I'm not even gonna like get to see you that much. So how about I visit separately? We'll just go to a vegan restaurant. We'll have fun, quality time. I think I would prefer that to this. I know I'm just gonna suffer if I show up. And then they totally understood and said, like, yeah, let's
Mm.
just
Beautiful.
and I think that when you do that, people actually
Exactly.
like end up respecting you more for being honest than just
Totally.
being there. But also, I wanted to say, like, I think one reason that you were successful and Gary was successful is like Gary is not censoring himself. And
Yeah.
as a public speaker, I try every time I give a talk, I try to like experiment with different things. One of the hardest thing for me was one thing that Gary said. It was really I found it really hard to say that to people, which was after he's done, he says, before coming to here to this talk, maybe you had an excuse. You have no excuse now.
Hmm.
So what is it gonna be? Are you gonna keep exploiting animals, or are you gonna like do the right thing to go vegan? I was like, it's so cringe. It's really hard. It's like you imagine like if you say that, you're just gonna piss the fuck out of all these people.
Yeah.
Every time I say that, every time like I'm gonna go as harsh as possible, still kind, still respectful, but I want to be myself. This is how I feel. I want to just say that. It works so much better every time. And like I think that's
Mm.
something that AV taught me too. Like holding people accountable. If you don't know what that means, it's like, why aren't you vegan? You fucking animal abuser. It just sounds that way, but it doesn't. It's not about that. It's like you being honest with people and just say, you told
Yeah.
me that you respect animals.
Uh-huh.
um, so when is the right time to go vegan? And then you can ask good question. If you were in place of animals, how urgently would you lead people to the right answer?
Yeah.
You are holding them accountable, but you're not distress. In fact, as Paul says, like it's the most loving thing that you can do to someone to open their eyes.
Mm.
And
Mm.
I tell vegans, like, if you went to your non-vegan time and I was the vegan, um, what would you rather me do? Would you rather me to come to you and wake you up sooner, or would you rather me be nervous about how you're gonna perceive me and not say anything and you're not vegan? And everybody says, no, I'd rather someone come to me soon. I was like, now you can be that person to so many other people. And with
Mm.
psychopaths, one thing I found that I can actually have a conversation about um, is I tell people, like I was talking to somebody at UT Austin and he said, yeah, and I was showing the footage, and he said, "Yeah, I don't really care. I don't have any emotions." And I said, I was about to walk off, but I was like, I give this guy another shot. And he said, um, "I don't believe you because I know that 1% of population is clinically psychopathic, so they clinically lack sympathy or empathy.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's you. I think you just
Mm.
say that because you know what's coming. I think that's your mechanism,
Yeah.
defense mechanism. And I know that because I don't think if you step on a dog's tail or paw, you're just gonna
Mm.
say, "Oh yeah, I don't really care." I was like, "I don't think you're just gonna probably apologize." And he laughed. And then that was my
You
way
got
in
it.
because he was like, "Yeah, I know you're not a psychopath. I know that you have
Yeah.
emotions somewhere in you. You're just suppressing it."
Mm.
um, and I wanted to also tell people that one thing I appreciate about you is like you've looked at your life. Anything you had in your power, you're using it for animals. You became very creative in a way, like the 1 year not speaking, the uh, that brought veganism to millions of, probably tens of millions of people. It did more. So ironic, right? It did more than if you spend that year talking to people about
For
veganism.
sure. Yeah, it's pretty
Um,
funny.
and then you did a tattoo thing, right? Didn't you do like a 24
Yeah.
hour or something like
Yeah, we did
that?
24-hour tattoos, raised $20,000 for some sanctuaries.
Yeah. Now you're using your music, and then you're using
Mm.
your, you made your body a temple for like activism, really.
Yeah. My arms are covered in animal rights tattoos, man. Like this one's when we rescued chickens from a factory farm, and it says, "We are fighting until every cage is empty, not until every cage is comfortable." Yeah, man. I think I use what I got. You know, you're a doctor. I don't think I would have the focus and drive to study as much as you need to be a doctor. And I respect it so much. And same with being a lawyer. And there's so many things that I could not do. But yeah, I do try to do what I can. You know, I try to pay attention to what my strengths are, what my weaknesses are, and work with that. And over the years, I've come to realize that I'm I'm good at speaking about this, but then after a while, I stopped wanting to debate and discuss. I felt like it was sort of offensive, you know. At some, I'm glad that it happens, but at some point, it needs to go beyond a debate of is this moral to just absolute clarity that this is immoral. And that's where I really appreciate the music because it's not a back and forth. It's boom. There you go. That's the reality. You know, if you want to argue about it, argue. But I'm not in the argument anymore. I'm just telling you how it is, and I'm telling you how you're behaving right there. So it's not an argument for me anymore. And yeah, I found, you know, like I did many speeches, which were successful. But I think there's a lot of potential in what I'm doing now because I just think it's already packaged in a way that people love. Like gangster rap is the most popular genre of music, and there's not many people that can cover this base, you know, that have sort of been through a lot of shit and have, you know, been interested in gangster rap since I was 8, basically. So, you know, when I started writing rhymes, I realized, wow, this topic is so good to rhyme about, you know, slaughter and torture and, you know, just this very confrontational opinion. Um, it just, and it hasn't been done. There's so much vocabulary in veganism that hasn't been rhymed already. You know, like when you think of gangster rap, you already know about what they rapped about, and it's all the words have already been like Eminem said, "I can't rap no more. I just murdered the alphabet." But when it comes to veganism, there's just so much potential. Like I find I cannot stop writing rhymes about it because there's so many topics to hit, so many rhymes to say that haven't been said. And you know, right, it's a big process to learn how to put the music out and make a music video. And I lost my social media for a year. I was banned and I was hacked. So I just put a lot of focus into one song and one music video. But now that I've done the process, I realize actually, you know, what I'm going to do now that I'm sort of set up and have a better understanding, is just record a whole album, boom, put the album there. People can listen to it, and then I'll start working on which music videos I want. And I've already got dozens of songs, man, just waiting for the world. So I think once I drop an album, you know, compared to just a song where people think about it for a few minutes, it's going to be a really powerful experience of listening to a bunch of songs for half an hour or an hour, potentially, you know, getting curious and hearing a few things that may resonate and confront certain beliefs. And overall, I just think, yeah, this is going to be a really good phase. The Jimmy Cashby chapter has a lot of potential. So, you know, we'll see what the people say. Music is something that you can't just necessarily, you know, the people have to like it, and if they don't like it, then it ain't going to win, no matter how good your message is. But yeah, man, it's a work in progress anyway. So I'm happy with my first song, definitely, and took a lot of work. We made the sounds out of, like, we made the beat from the sounds of a slaughterhouse. A video that me and Nikki took when we were inside a slaughterhouse. So we just used the MP3,
Wow.
turned it into a beat, and yeah, the first song I wanted to come out with just sort of saying, you know, characterized by lacking empathy, having no remorse, indifferent, not even afterthoughts to dead bodies in your dinner course, persistent antisocial behavior, egocentric traits, intent on murdering innocent beings because you like the taste. You know, it really fits the bill of psychopathy. I'm no doctor, but you know, I read the definition and it fits the bill. So and whether it's fully legitimate to describe it as that, the benefit of gangster rap is you can be metaphorical with it as well. Like you can say, you know, I got a song called Brainwash Zombies, which will be coming out pretty soon. Obviously they're not zombies, but you can be metaphorical with it, be creative with it, call them brainwash zombies, and it's going to resonate in a way that if you just sort of set it in a conversation, it's not going to be the same. It doesn't paint the same picture. So yeah, I'm excited for it, man, and I hope it'll be as successful as some of the other stuff I've done or beyond.
Yeah, I really want people to understand, like, this is a point I try to hammer with my students, but also anyone who's watching this, that to be effective and to reach people, you don't need anything in particular. All you need is a will to speak up. And speaking
Mm,
up, I usually just say activism or speaking up. I don't know what it means to people, but what I mean by that is like just doing anything.
yeah,
Activism,
just being
speaking up.
honest.
Yeah, and even speaking up doesn't mean that you actually have to move your mouth. You
Mm,
spoke up by being silent
yeah,
for a year, right?
yeah.
It's like you don't need a graduate, you don't need to be a doctor, you don't need to be a
Hmm.
lawyer, you don't need to be a musician. Just look at what you have in your um, vicinity and just use it, right? Like if
Indeed.
it's your music, and I mean, you literally just made tattoo a thing for raising money for animals. So that kind of it's more about the mentality. It's not like I don't really care how you do it. You want to hear a fun
Definitely.
fact? I've
Yes.
been doing some calculations that even if the entire money in animal rights movements that goes to animal rights globally is about $300 million, and for farm animals, that is. So
Hmm.
even if 1% of US was vegan and everyone donated like a couple of cups of coffee um, per month, we would outspend the amount that the entire animal rights movement has right now, just
Hmm.
by a couple of coffee per month. Like that's how little amount it takes from every vegan. So what I'm trying to say is that
Yeah.
if every vegan just decided, I'm not going to do anything, I don't want to talk to people about veganism, I don't want yeah, no change in my life, I just donate 1 cup of coffee per week, per month. If every vegan did that, we would outspend that amount of money we currently have. That's how
Mm.
little it takes.
Interesting.
On the other side, though, the sad part of it is the money we have could have done a lot more in educating people if it didn't go to welfare campaigns. Like over a third of
Mm.
it goes to like cage free stuff. And like, I like your tattoo. It said like, until every cage is empty, not more comfortable.
Not
Is that what it said?
comfortable. Yeah, exactly.
What inspired that?
Well, I wanted the tattoos to cover pretty much the main points of veganism, not the ones on my arms. So, I got this one of a liberation, and I wanted to be clear about abolition versus welfare. So we are fighting until every cage is empty, not until every cage is comfortable. I got the lion here. Lions kill for need, humans kill for greed. A orangutan with her baby. Don't know if you can see this shit. Probably not. Let me
Yeah,
see.
I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, like orangutan with a baby. It says, because the heart beats under a covering of feathers, scales, wings, or fur, it is for that reason to be of no account. And be the change you wish to see in the world. This one, it's an animal getting slaughtered. It's a very famous photo that used to do the rounds. It's a slaughterhouse worker here with a cow up here, and it says, Auschwitz begins whenever someone looks at a slaughterhouse and thinks they're
They're
only
just
animals.
animals.
And every morsel of meat we eat is slapping the tear-stained face of a hungry child. And only Einstein, only a life lived for others is a life worthwhile. So I sort of wanted to cover a lot of the like excuses that people have about, you know, yeah, just pretty much everything. And with the cage one, it was like, yeah, it's a big problem of people thinking that there's a right way to do the wrong thing, and just try to, you know, hit to the root of that is, guys, you can make the most comfortable cage, but they're still enslaved, and that is the problem here. So it's not fixing the problem by giving them a comfortable bed or something like that. That's just, yeah, trying to find the right way to do the wrong thing.
I think a lot of people deep inside want that animal liberation, but like they paint welfarism under the umbrella of being pragmatic about
Mm,
like animal rights, that it's just not going to happen overnight. So let's, reduce
yeah.
animal suffering, which I mean, the idea resonates with me. Like if there was a button I
Yes,
could push and all the cages would go away, and until people go vegan, animals suffered less. I'm not crazy. I think that's okay. That's a good thing to do. Except that like spending the little money that we have, and also understand being open-minded. Like if I feel like these crowds usually are not looking at the data that they use. Like you said, let's talk about the data. Like I don't really care about the strat. Like what did you say? You said I don't even know what the data shows, and even if it showed this, I'm not going to believe it because it's very limited. And that's, I'm a scientist, so I'm a man of like science and data. But when it comes to like social changes, you can't have a group of 10 people and just like show them dominion,
exactly.
and especially because a lot of these changes take such a long time, and then there is a
It's
secondary
deep.
effect. It's like when someone is an ethical vegan, they're more likely to actually talk to other people about going vegan. I really hate this mentality that, oh, instead of asking people to go vegan, maybe we just, you know, you can convince 10 people to reduce 10%. But it's like 10 people reducing meat consumption by 10% is not equivalent to one vegan, because the vegan is
Mm,
more likely to actually go and change the culture, speak up to
yeah,
become somebody like us. I'm not saying like somebody who's cutting down meat consumption is a bad thing. I'm just saying like we shouldn't go and ask people. We should be honest with them. Going back to honesty, right?
yeah,
We should tell them the truth, and they can always cut down if that's where they end up being. At least I gave them the truth, and at least they have the truth, and maybe
mm,
one day they go vegan. But if all we ask, but I really hate that we
yeah. It's a desperate move.
yeah, but that like studies don't consider any of that, right? It's just like
Mm,
and based on the very dirty data sets, I think that the movement has decided the best thing to do is like cage-free campaigns, because supposedly egg prices will go up and supposedly that'll reduce consumption. But that's just not
yeah,
true, because they are just going to market it as premium products. People are happier to pay extra for chickens that they think don't suffer as much or at all.
totally. Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah, it's a tough one because I completely resonate with the idea. Um, but yeah, another problem is a lot of the welfare stuff doesn't necessarily improve the welfare. Cool. They're not in. There's the chickens in the egg farms aren't all jammed into one cage. Now they're in one massive cage together. How improved is their welfare actually in this situation? How was it worth all this campaigning and money and everything for this change? Are they even better in this case? And there's a lot of cases like that, unfortunately. Um, yeah, it's really tough. Like
can I just insert
when
something
it,
for people very quick? You're
please.
absolutely right. My assumption is like best case scenario, even if you thought that it makes animals feel better, it's
Mm,
still a bad decision for so many other reasons. But you're absolutely right. PETA just published a white paper. I just want to do a shout out for people. Just Google white paper, cage free PETA. You'll see the paper. It's like an academic white paper that they actually show that in many instances, not always, but in many instances, cage free can increase animal suffering because they
yeah,
inhale ammonia. It's more dusty because they have more room to walk around. It
yeah.
gets more dusty. They get more lung issues. So more broken bones. Um, so
That's
you're
horrible,
absolutely right.
man. Fuck, like they can't even support their own weight. Ah, man, it's devastating. But I will say this: I went vegetarian first. And I used to ask at my speeches when I was talking to vegans, put your hand up if you went vegetarian first, and almost every hand would go up. So I am all about being honest and being clear, but at the same time, I think where I might differ with certain vegans who feel very similar to me is I will offer both. I'll say, look, you should be vegan right now, and you could. But just I know from experience, from my own life, from other people's life, I understand how people think about it, and I am okay with. I'm not okay with, but I think it's acceptable because I think it leads to the right thing potentially more often if we, you know, say, yeah, you should be vegan. And here's the way that people achieve that. Ideally, you do this. But if you first because I know how you feel. You feel overwhelmed by this idea. Your whole life, everywhere you go, you feel like it's going to be different. You can start with just meat. Try for a couple of weeks. Just cut meat out, replace it with this, and offer a strategy for people. It's like, do this, do that, and I just don't think that's a bad thing to do. If you're being honest with, you shouldn't do that. But this can be a practical approach. This is what I did. This is what many vegans did, and you'll probably get to the finish line. Because if you don't even give the option out of I get it. It's like it feels wrong, but ultimately, if it's going to lead to them being vegan more often, instead of being like, you should be vegan right now, boom, like, are you going to be vegan now or not? And like, well, I don't know. No, I don't think I am going to be vegan right this second. And then they sort of walk away with like, damn, I don't know if I can be vegan. That's pretty hard. Yeah, I'm probably not going to be vegan. Yeah, I just think that it's a fair enough strategy to just give the approach that has worked for so many people, which involves doing it in steps. So I'm not opposed to baby steps in any way. I think it's valuable, but I think you got to be honest that cutting meat out ain't obviously ain't the solution. And I'm really thinking about this more. Like as you said, it's you got to be real about it. Like once you get this and you realize, damn, this is out of control. This is absolute atrocity on the highest level, crime against nature, just horrific. You gotta just, the next logical step is to, use your voice and do something about it and end this shit. And when it comes to the cages, bigger cages and more comfortable cages and all this shit, I think like, all right, if you can make actual valuable change in direction for these animals and reduce some of their suffering, great. I love it. But I wonder if those people were instead focused more on the root cause of the problem, attacking actually the issue. Like, for example, let me just give you one example. Back in the day, Peter did the Holocaust on your plate, right? The Holocaust on your plate. Now, even at the time that they did that, I remember thinking, damn, guys, like, you're going to just alienate people here. And they agreed, actually, and they ended up, maybe, I might be getting some of this wrong, so I apologize if I am, but this is my understanding of the situation. And they ended up taking down the campaign and, they were like, yeah, this isn't a success kind of thing. This is a bad idea. But at some point, I realized like, well, it is a Holocaust, massive Holocaust. And it comes back to this honesty of like, if you're not going to call it that, if you're not going to respond, not accurately, like if you're not going to respond in the normal way you should, like if you're not going to say it's a Holocaust, for example, then you're making a mistake, right? Like you just gotta be real about it. And I guess what I'm trying to say
I
is,
think it goes back to like you can't call it Holocaust because you can compare other animals with humans, which is really the core issue here, that you don't understand that we absolutely can compare. You can't compare anything.
And if we don't,
this is
and if we agree, maybe we shouldn't, like that I think is a mistake because we're again just sort of playing this strategy game instead of just being totally real and honest and saying how we really think about it. Because that's like, we think about it right and we think about it like this, and I want everyone to think about it like I think about it. So if I instead go, they're going to get offended if I be real about it, I just feel like
and here's another thing, like a lot of
selling
times
out on
people
the animals.
think
Like it's not in their best interest.
A lot of times people think,
or maybe it is, and maybe it's right to do the strategy thing. Like, no one knows for sure. I've just got to a point where I'm like, fuck the fucking do it like this, do it like that, and all that, which I used to promote. And I'm just like, say it how you really feel.
Yeah. Also, a lot of people, say like, oh, people are offended, therefore it's not a good strategy. But that's like, I got offended when my friend told me like, Faraz, you're a hypocrite because you love animals but you eat them. And here I am, right? So it's like being
Mm.
offended doesn't mean that people are not going to change. I mean, that's a bad assumption for somebody to make. Funny enough, like hear this. I recently uh, got an application for starting an ASAP chapter at a university in Utah and Idaho. And one of these students, I guess two chapters, but one of them, we met with them, and he really wants to start speaking up for animals, and super super motivated guy. He's like, now he's gonna go become a doctor. So he's like, I see so much potential in him.
Mm.
And then I said, we're gonna, if you want mics and recording devices, I'll happily buy it for you. You have to start making videos for social media. And then I said, like, anything you need help with, just let me know. Let me CC my other student who's really good at like video editing, and he's in another university, Binghamton. And then he said, I actually attended the other university, Binghamton, for a while, and I came across you. His name is Ben. Like, Ben, I actually talked to you, and I think it was a little like disrespectful at the time. So when Ben was doing outreach to him, he actually got upset, and then they had a heated conversation. And if you listen to that conversation right there, you probably, and Ben told me, yeah, at that point I wasn't great at conversations. I probably said push too hard or whatever. Doesn't matter.
Mhm.
The important
Yeah,
thing is
exactly.
he said something, he was there, and this interaction
Yeah.
happened. And if you just look at that, you're like, wow, that wasn't a productive conversation. But who knew that, like, months later, this guy is now
Mm.
reaching out to me and saying, like, I want to speak up for animals. I'm vegan. Like, how can I
Yeah.
help? So it's like a bad
Perfect.
assumption to just say people are offended. Of course, people are going to get offended.
Yeah.
And by the way, what did you expect? Like, status quo is killing and torturing and raping animals. And now
Mm.
here you're pushing back. St- it's called status quo. It just means that when you push back, you're gonna get pushed back. And it's like, what did you expect? I would say,
I
I
tell you what
think,
I expect. I tell you what I expect. I expect people to be like, true, we are animal abusers, and that is fucked up. I don't know what I was thinking. You're right. We can live vegan. I keep seeing all these vegans. I keep hearing about veganism. They exist. You know, what am I doing? That's what I expect. And what I see is, yeah, but bacon, what am I going to do about bacon?
yeah,
It trips me out, man. Like it's disappointing, the reaction from a lot of people. But honestly, I say this, like you mentioned Paul and AV a couple of times, man, they have really dialed in their questioning, and they're asking all the right questions and making people really, really leading them to their own conclusions that, yeah, damn, we we need to change. And I think they're really doing such an excellent job. And dude, I gotta say, ASAP, what a brilliant and apt name for your organization. It's so urgent, like I think as well, because the problem's so massive and we're just like us against the world, it kind of affects the feeling of urgency. It's like too many animals to even comprehend. And instead of being like more and more outrage, at some point you just like switch off almost. Like I don't even know how to like comprehend the gravity of the situation. But ASAP, man, as soon as possible. Like it's just absolutely so urgent, and it's sad to think that we might not see. Already it's been 12 years for me, 15 years for you. In another 15 years, I just hate to think that we're in a similar situation, talking about these people still making excuses. And another 100 years, who knows, man? And I don't know what the world needs to shake them up and wake them up, but it fucking needs something ASAP.
yeah, yeah. Thank you. I mean, I think what I thought was missing in the movement was the sense of urgency, and
Mm.
for both non-vegans to understand that this is a moral crisis. This is not, oh, please, like, for the sake of helping climate and environment,
Yeah,
eat less red meat. It's like,
yeah,
no, this is a fucking moral crisis and the biggest one ever
perfect.
existed.
Mm.
and then for also vegans to understand that we have to take action. And like, I think I live my life based on this simple analogy that if somebody was beating a dog in front of me, just like anyone else, like the emotional like fire that you will feel in your like in your guts and your heart, it's just like you will run to save that animal. You don't even
Mm.
think. It's like automatic reaction, like when a child is about to fall or a car is about to hit your friend or a dog or your kid. You just grab them. You're not like thinking, that car is coming fast, clearly there is a problem, somebody has to. You don't think. Just grab the
Mm.
child and like get them out
Yeah,
of danger, right? It's like
yeah, absolutely.
that's really the mentality that vegans should have when it comes to this. um
Yeah, I think people are vegans. I look. I'll say a couple of things actually. I love to see, people being very clear about the definition of veganism and making it about slavery, about exploitation. I like it. But on the other hand, because what we're talking about is trillions of beings being decapitated as just one part of the process of many horrific things, I think it's very wise to also just express as best you can how violent it is. I think that resonates with people really well and gives a strong motivation beyond just, you agree slavery is wrong, right? We shouldn't enslave. I like that because it's getting to the root of it.
yep.
But I do think like the treatment is the treatment, it's not about how they're treated. They shouldn't be exploited at all. But in the same breath, they are being fucking tortured to death, and like I want that expressed as well beyond just the core issue. Um, I would rather, oh yeah, basically that. Like I still want that expressed. That yeah, we shouldn't enslave, obviously, but look at what happens when we do, and just getting people to see this shit, which is hard to do. Which are you guys showing footage when you have the conversations?
Many times, yes, which is the most
Yeah,
powerful
yeah. I
part.
think yeah, man, like it's all such behind closed doors. I think that's one of the best things to do. Like what AB does and what you guys are doing is force people to actually confront it and see it. Someone said to me yesterday, "Is that even?" I just released my song again, "Psychopathic Tendencies," with a 18 plus, music video where it's more graphic. I didn't want to put that on YouTube in case it got flagged and whatever, whatever. And someone said, "Is this even?" I just thought about this and I just stopped eating meat, they said. So they're probably not even vegan, but I just thought about this. Is this really beneficial to be showing people all this kind of thing? And I can't think of anything more beneficial, honestly, than getting people to actually witness the violence. I think that's one of the things that most people are motivated by, not just the idea of exploitation is immoral, and it is, and you can get them to agree, but being like, look at the result of this shit. There's no good way to do this, guys. And look, even if like, it doesn't matter if there could be a good way to do it. It doesn't matter if you could get these animals from alive to dead with zero pain while they're asleep with an injection. Like it just isn't happening. It's just not how it is, right? So the reality is they're tortured to death, and look at it. Look at your victims. Look at them. Imagine if that was you, to help you get the empathy that you suppress. And that's just the best thing. That's just the
I
best thing
think like
people could do, I
imagine
think.
that was you. I think it's one of the strongest things I found in my activisms, like helping people to see this as an injustice and view animals as individuals. Sorry, can you say something? I think I lost your audio. Let me check if it's me or. Yeah, it's not on YouTube either. Um, Give me 1 second. Yeah, so your audio is out. Maybe the battery died. Take your time. This is on, right? And this is on your earpiece. We, we tried your other headphone. Do you want to try that? We can try. I can still stay live, and then you can like maybe leave and come back. Do you want to like leave and try to come back and see if that reconnects? Also, you have the bigger headphone. I don't know if that will fix it. Yeah, if you join, we can maybe wrap it up in 10 minutes too. So that's fine. Another thing that you can do is to actually join from your phone. Um, just
Yo, can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Sweet as. That's all good?
Yes, all good. One thing maybe you can do is to actually turn off the video from your phone, and
True,
let's
true,
use the
true. That's
audio.
smart. That's smart, bro. I did that shit. Boom. Yeah, we good?
Yes, all good. Yeah,
All right, sweet as, whatever.
yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, yeah, sorry about that. I had no clue what happened, but this mic, wherever it disappeared to, obviously ain't doing the job.
Yeah, no, we're all good. I have your audio.
Sweet.
Um, and let me just check on YouTube. All good. So, yeah, one thing I wanted to add is like when it comes to like baby steps, like you said, I think most vegans became vegan not immediately, but I also think that it's probably because nobody gave us the perspective we have today, like you were saying.
Very
Um,
true.
I think like for us, it was like, why don't you start from this? Or maybe, I don't know, probably a washed down, diluted version of the message we try to communicate with people. I think about it as like, imagine you're a doctor and then you have a patient who's dying. In this case, like animals are dying, but whatever. Um, and then you tell them that like you have to stop smoking. Like you can't obviously guarantee that, but one thing you could tell them is that, man, you have lung cancer, you are dying, you have to stop. But then the solution we give them, instead of like, why don't you like slowly stop smoking, would be giving them resources they can use immediately, such as
Mm,
like I think two different approaches, right? So like start, cutting down smoking slowly, but hey, you're stage like 2 or 3, like lung cancer, like you have to stop right now. But on the other hand, here are all the resources I can give you. Yes, it's hard to suddenly quit. So therefore, here is like nicotine patch. Here is like a book you can read. Here is a group that you can attend. Here is my number. If you really want to, like, I don't know, if you really need to smoke, just call me. I'll remind you. Here is a movie that you can watch about people suffering from
mm,
like wars. It's like you give them the resources, but at least the message. And then in some senses, they will start reducing anyways. I think
yeah.
equivalent of food for me is like, can you make your next meal fully vegan? It's sort of
Mm,
it's almost the same like baby step thing, but at least it's like fully vegan. Like, can you make your next meal? What were you going to eat tonight? Let's like walk through that.
it's
How
good.
can we make that fully
Yeah,
vegan? That's I guess
exactly.
one other
Yeah.
approach.
No, I think
Um,
it's good to give the practical, what is, okay, you got the mentality, you understand where we're coming from. What does that look like in your day to day? What's the practical application of this principle? And I think that's where people, yeah, they get scared. They're not going to be able to do it. Giving tips like that, let's talk about your next meal. What's that going to look like? And you know, like baby steps or any step in that direction is already a crack in the conditioning, a step in the right direction. You're building momentum. It feels good. Hopefully, someone's there to encourage and congratulate you. Maybe someone else is there to, hey, this ain't enough, and shame you a little bit. And it all just adds to the next step. And the thing is, like the practical application, there's really not so many steps. It's not, you don't want to go to weddings, and I respect it and I understand it. It's hard. I hate being around just dead bodies everywhere and everyone having a good time. Like fucking
yeah,
pisses me off so bad. But that's not part of. You don't have to do that as a vegan. And the actual practical application is simple. It's going from eating a corpse to eating soy meat or seitan. It's going from this milk to that milk. It is just a few mundane, seemingly mundane changes in your life. You don't go to the rodeo anymore. You probably didn't even go, a lot of people. You don't do just this shit that becomes obvious when you realize that animals don't deserve to be enslaved and used by us. And yeah, man, I think just like the practical application, like I shouldn't give this idea away, but fuck it. Even if someone else did it, it'd be awesome. I want to I want to write like the world's easiest vegan recipe book. You know, like the world's easiest. Just this is so easy, guys. And yeah, man, just the coaching of it. I feel like that's something I know I've kind of lacked in that department a little bit. I've really just focused on the why big time over the years. And I've had people that I know from, many years ago be like, I get it. Okay, I get it. I'm an animal abuser. Okay. What the fuck do I do? What
Yeah.
the fuck do I eat? And I'm like, yeah. They're like, you should please help us with that. And, for me, it's just so like, whatever. Just eat this, eat that. It's easy. But yeah, I do understand it, and it's something I want to do more of is like the how, just the practical application. All right, you guys get it. This message is simple. What does this look like in your everyday life? And what is, I really try to focus on what's life like through the eyes of a vegan.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy out there, man. It's fucking crazy out there. The other day we're in Thailand right now. We live in here now. We on the scooter, right, just cruising, off somewhere. I can't remember what we're doing. We're going snorkeling. Fuck, man, the best thing ever, going snorkeling and meeting all the fish. I'm gonna tell you a crazy story in a second. But anyway, we're rolling and there's this fucking truck, little truck, like not a big massive one, but just packed with pigs, broken spirited pigs, just looking at them like they're just fucking, they're just crushed on their way to get stabbed in the throat with a big fucking knife, right? We're on our way to have it. This is a Sunday for us. Through the eyes of someone else, they don't even look at that shit. This is like, whatever, another truck. For us, it's like, okay, this is probably going to ruin our day. I'm going to keep thinking about these eyes I just looked into. And then you go somewhere and you see, like, there's this restaurant with a big statue of a cow out the front, right? A steakhouse with a fucking cow out the front. And you see all these people smiling, eating dead bodies, and this monkey on a what are they called, on a chain. You just everywhere. You just see all this normalized violence. The eyes through a vegan, there's a totally different world out there, man. And it's hard. Like, the hardest part about being vegan is just seeing it all, I reckon, and just knowing about it. Not like, what am I going to have for dinner tonight? I'm going to have soy meat with my spaghetti and have spaghetti bolognese. It's going to be fucking easy. But what's hard is being like, damn, look at all these poor innocent beings. Look at all these mindless people consuming their corpses and all the other shit they're doing. Yeah, man, that's the hard part. Like, and I think people don't want to, like, like, it hurts. So I don't want to. People don't want to feel so much. They're already busy. They got shit going on there. They're already stressed about shit. It's a lot to allow animals into your heart, and to accept this situation, with the gravity of what it really is. But I don't want that to put people off as well. Like, it's just the reality of being vegan. Maybe you will feel depressed about it. Probably. That's a pretty rational response to the situation. But on a deeper level, you are, satisfied, like, grateful. You're feeling content with who you are. You're part of something bigger than yourself, a movement of peace, a movement against violence, against slavery, that will reduce massive amounts of suffering. Like, there's all this good that comes with it. And if everybody just did what vegans are already doing, just these few little things, even without all the activism and all that, if you just did the simple things that vegans are doing in their practical day to day, this world would go from planet slaughterhouse to, a trillion times more peaceful than it is. And yeah, I just wish people would realize how much better the world would be, and, how good it is to be vegan, even though it comes with some challenges.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think telling people the why is extremely important, the how is also important. So that's why the literature I give people usually, like, defines veganism first. It ends with, like, if you were in place of animals, how urgently would you want this to end? But then, then there is QR code for extra, like, guidance of how to do it. Because I think you're right. For many people, it's like when they hear vegan, they think they have to eat lettuce and tomatoes for the rest of their lives, and that used
Yeah.
to be me too. But I want to actually maybe sort of Okay, I want to end with this, but before that, I had another question. So maybe I ask you that, and then we move to that. Given the fact that you've done so many like public speeches and been communicating this message to people for such a long time, what are some of the things that you feel like makes the message a lot more powerful and effective? What contributed to you to go like viral for lots of people, millions of people hear your voice? What are some of the learnings in terms of like what are other things that people can like try and so benefit from it?
I think that the first thing you know, so I did my vow of silence. And before my vow of silence, I was working on cruise ships, giving lectures on health, running the gym, all that kind of thing. Before that, I was the worst public speaker ever. I was known in high school for being exceptionally bad at public speaking. I was just so nervous and I don't know what the hell's going on. And then when I was doing my speeches, when I was doing my vow of silence, is around the time that Gary quit. And when he quit, I thought, well, someone needs to continue these speeches. Um, and I had a story then, and then this happened. This is how I used to think, and then this happened to me, and then here I am now. And everyone's got that. Everyone's got their own personal experience, their own personal transition and story of how they changed their mindset and how their life changed. And it's a fascinating story. I think that people, uh, when they go vegan, or especially when you've been vegan a while, it becomes like it's just so obvious. It's just so normal for us now, that you kind of forget how big of a shift it is. Like it's just so easy and normal. You just live in it. But man, did we think differently before? And I think this everybody's got that. That's a vegan. So you can use your story, to tell the message. And then I thought this, and then I learned that, and this, and that, and then it keeps their defenses down quite a lot because it's about you. You're just telling the story, and people can just relate in their own way to it as you discuss it.
I
And
think
I found,
stories are very important. Like I always tell
yeah,
people, like connect with these stories. Like for students who want to do public presentation, I say find that interesting story about you. That's what makes you human.
mm,
That's what connects with people. Yeah, funny enough, one of the when I started doing public presentations, I once just mentioned the story of a chicken I had as a kid. I loved the chicken. His name was Happy, and my grandma like killed him and
well,
fed him to me and didn't tell me about it.
fuck,
I
oh my
just
God, bro.
mentioned that. I also got pretty emotional
Uh-huh.
telling the story. And then after that, like people were crying. Everyone would come to me and say, I had
Mm,
the same experience. And it just became one of the most powerful things that I say now.
mm,
It's not my doctorate, it's that like story from childhood that like impresses people, or really just connects with people. So
mm-hmm.
100%, like I
Interesting.
think that those personal stories. Actually, speaking of personal stories, didn't you deal with cancer before, like leukemia?
Yeah, I did. When I was 17, I had acute lymphoblastic leukemia and T-cell lymphoma. I was given 6 weeks to live if I didn't start treatment straight away. I had like 13 golf ball sized lumps in my neck, under my arm. I felt fine, but shit was going on. And yeah, I started quite an aggressive chemo cycle. For we did like everyday chemo for about 6 months. We had about some months off, and then I would take methotrexate every week for, it was supposed to be 2 years, and it ended up being 3 years because many times I was still sort of sick from the week before of the methotrexate kind of thing. And I was fucking partying heaps, bro. Like way too much. I was taking methotrexate, taking all kinds of shit. And it was no doubt, no surprise that it was my health was pretty bad. But yeah, that's another story I use, man, because through that experience, one thing is I suffered, and a lot of people we all have suffered, I guess, in ways. But sometimes when I speak to people, I feel like, wow, you've had a really easy life, and I'm happy for you. But some people have really suffered horribly. And I've had my own experiences. Could have been much worse. I know there's way more people out there much worse. But at least, going through so much pain and misery, physical suffering, Yeah, it definitely is something that I used to relate to the situation. And it's interesting, like just talking stories. There's something about that story that people love to hear, they find it fascinating hearing about cancer and what happened and this and that. And yeah, it's interesting. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is, just going back to the overall theme of what we're talking about, it might seem mundane to you, your story, of your transition of your mindset. But to people that don't have that mindset, it's extremely fascinating, because it's different from them, and and I went from here to there, and people just like the journey, hearing the journey. So yeah, it's a really powerful thing to just share your experience of going vegan, and that led me to a lot. It led me to caring about health, becoming a personal trainer, meeting a guy. I was trying to be a good person. I loved helping people. I loved helping them out of their suffering, and I was, getting into meditation and quite a spiritual path, I suppose, as loosely described by most people. And what happened with me actually was very selfish. A guy said it's bad for your karma to eat animals, and for me that resonated. And I was on a cruise ship where it's all you can eat meat every meal. It's always there, just stacks of meat. Right? I was living on that ship, and it was great when I first got there. Unlimited meat, hell yeah! And then it's funny that that's the place where I stopped eating meat, and went vegetarian initially. And just started sharing my experience. This is what happened to me. This is what I start thinking differently. What do you think about this? I remember there was a client I had, very nice lady who I was friends with, and she was an animal lover. She was a kind, peaceful person, and but I trained her for years, as a personal trainer before I was vegan. And then I went on the cruise ship, learned all this shit. I come back and I'm like, sorry about everything I told you regarding nutrition, but that was wrong. And I really think you should consider what I'm talking about here. Look at what happens to animals. And at that time I was still battling. I'm like, surely I'm wrong about this. This situation can't be the way I see it. Like I can't just be one in a billion or more looking at this and thinking this is wrong. Like it's got to be right, and I'm tripping. So I'm trying to discuss it with her, and she's been like, about free range and all this shit. I'm like, fuck, man, this is and it became a real big problem for us actually, where like I remember one time she's like, never mind, never mind. She's gonna tell me a story. I'm like, no, what's up? She goes, oh, I was just gonna tell you I had some delicious goat for lunch. And I was like, okay. She goes, yeah, it was really good. And I said, well, it wasn't good for the goat. And after that, I think she didn't ever want to talk about almost anything. We used to talk about everything together, like just our lives while we'd be training. After that, she never wanted to, talk about her life really, and I was starting to do speeches and shit. So if she asked me about my life, I'm like, well, vegan stuff, vegan stuff, vegan stuff. And became, and then I just moved on and stopped personal training and got into all this kind of thing. But yeah, man, it was just interesting to see. And I don't know, I guess other things that I think, like just the obvious that everybody's got social media now. We can reach, even if you're just reaching hundreds of people, that's exceptional. That's amazing. That was hard to do so 20 years ago. Like we got this tool now where we can all share, and it's never been easier to express your opinion. And so yeah, I think obviously utilizing that and learning how to utilize that, and then beyond that, beyond just sort of sharing a story and like having the conversations like you guys do at ASAP, um, I think there's a lot of room in the movement for, like, I would love to see like a zombie film about that kind of relates to vegan. Oh, for example, have you seen the short film called Norm? Norm, I think it
Yeah.
is. Yeah, yeah. So I'll give a quick explanation. It's basically, guys chilling, a few homies are sitting around a table, and two of them are on their way to go rape some women because it's normalized in their society, and they were bred for that purpose. And it's okay in their society. And then there's these norms or normies or something who are like, actually, that's unethical, guys. And they're like, no, no, it's humane rape. And they're like, no, it's not. They don't want to be there. And it's a great, I guess, word's juxtaposition between, at the end, I don't want to, maybe I shouldn't spoil the ending, but at the end, it relates it to veganism. And I love the creativity behind that. And yeah, it's kind of part of, I'd love to do a song like that. I've got kind of songs like that. And I think there's a real big space in the movement for like these kind of creative uh, movies or stories or songs or plays or I don't know, just anything that's like that's yeah, kind of story based that makes people think that can be related to something else. Like imagine if rape was normal, or imagine if aliens came and did the same thing to humans, what we're doing, and farmed us, and all these little things that point people in the right direction and express the situation in a creative way. I'd love to see more of that as well. I think that'll resonate with people, and it sort of gets under people's radar. This isn't like a vegan thing so much. It's not just like a, hey, look at. I don't think I'm dissing your shit because I think you guys are doing the best thing ever, showing the cruelty and stuff. But that already exists big time, and I'm just saying, like on top of that, I think it would be great to see stuff like that of yeah, just like this creative ways to express the underlying message.
Yeah, like we need, for the most part, many different strategies that have been proven to work. A lot of times people ask me, like, is it like showing the footage that's more impactful? Like one event we do, the dog meat events that we, Elwood dog meat, it's like people lose their shit over that. And
Yeah,
it
so
works.
good.
So I don't
That's
really care.
perfect.
Whatever.
Exactly.
It's, it's like you can make, I don't know, do studies and say, like, first of all, I don't think there's a good way to ever know, but um, yeah, one works 52%, the other one is, I don't know, compared to another method, 40%. It's like, okay, but like they both work. Like you still need, 40% of people who will react to this one. And so we need that. As long
Mm,
as the message is not taking a step back to in a wrong direction, like I think,
yeah.
welfarism, I think we need all of them. And I agree with you. I
Mm,
mean, like my new thing is just getting people use whatever is in their power. Um, and each one of us has their own like community, right? It's like music for me is one. I really like flying, and so one thing that's sort of
yeah, I
new to
saw
me is
that.
like, yeah, I'm trying to like penetrate into like pilots communities because also they are very pro meat. I don't know what the
Mm,
correlation between like masculinity and piloting and
yeah.
barbecue, whatever the fuck is going on. I have no idea. But they are like their thing
That's
is let's
crazy.
just fly for fun, go somewhere and barbecue. That's a thing amongst like pilots.
Right.
So,
Really fascinating.
but like I'm trying to say like whatever is you are into like rap or funny enough, I just had a meeting and I met one
Wait,
of my
can you pause? Oh, sorry. Can you hold that thought?
yeah
Can you hold that thought? I got a mad idea for you, bro. You need to fly, but with one of those big messages behind you. One of the,
yes.
like that would be perfect. I don't think that's been done before. You should see if you can get into that.
Actually, it's funny you say that because I've thought about that a lot, and it usually takes a lot
Mm,
of. It's expensive to buy them, but I wonder if I actually flew it myself.
that'd be
Then I don't have
epic.
to pay for someone. Yeah,
Yeah,
uh,
cool.
that's not a bad idea.
Sorry to interrupt. Yeah, go ahead.
What was I saying? Oh yeah, I just saw one of my
Had a meeting.
students. He recently did Iron Man, so he got a medal for Iron Man and all that. And it was like, he said, I actually look, he did that to use it in vegan conversations. And then I was like, let's look at your Instagram. Why isn't your Instagram even say that you should add it? And he's like telling me about how, oh, it's like a cringe, people, I don't want like people who brag about it. I was like, fuck that, like carnivores gladly say they are
Totally.
carnivores, like, and it's like they
Uh-huh.
put fucking bacon on their, like, that's the mentality I'm talking about. Like we are just so
Mm,
self-conscious about who we are that it's just like, I don't want to say I'm Iron Man, I don't want to like I didn't even want to use the title
mm.
doctor in my social media. My social media used to be vegatheist, for vegan gay atheist.
Really?
Yeah, my
Awesome.
my co-founder was like, "That's stupid," and I was like, "But I love it." He was like, "It's not about what you love, and I don't care about your feelings.
Mm.
Just you have the
Well,
credibility, so you have to use it."
yeah,
So I say
exactly.
that to
Doctor
other
brings a
people
lot of
now.
credibility, man.
Like, you have to like use whatever is in your power to just also amplify your voice. So I want to just the last question I want to sort of discuss. What's like when you think about the animal rights movement, like animal liberation? Um, what's your long-term plan for the movement? What do you think we should be doing? Where do you get your hope? What's that hope that you have for the movement?
Yeah, it's, I think we're going in the right direction in a lot of ways. Um, I think people are being inspired to act, and um, it's a shame to see things like Beyond Meat stock just dropping like 99% and things like that. But I don't think that's really a marker of the public consciousness changing. I think that was just really attacked by potentially the meat industry to be seen as something unhealthy and blah blah blah. And they're very powerful and got a lot of money to throw behind, bashing the alternatives to death, basically. I used to have really a huge amount of faith in the alternate meats or in the lab meat, for example. And it's not that I don't anymore. I think maybe eventually that'll, unfortunately, but also fortunately, be something that shifts the consumption in a big way. Maybe it won't change our mindset much, but at least it will, you know, create a massive dent. I guess we'll find out. It'll be interesting because I think that's a pretty easy thing for people to be like, that's created in a lab. This isn't healthy, blah, blah, blah. And it's going to take quite a lot of time to convince people otherwise, if they can be convinced. Um, Personally, though, as I said, I'm all in on Jimmy Ashby. I know what I've got in terms of my music and many songs and telling the message. So at least for me, I feel like I'm doing my part and, covering a base that needs to be covered. Working with something that's creative that expresses the message very honestly in a package that a lot of non-vegans already enjoy and appreciate. And, I don't know if this will ever happen, but like I'm a huge psytrance fan. I love raves and going to psytrance parties. Like, I love rap, but I, I love psytrance so much, man. And it's a dream of mine, big time, just because I think, again, it's a base that isn't covered, and it's another way to, throw in a few words and express the message in a unique, creative way. But you can get a massive crowd because they love that kind of sound and they love how the beat drops and they love this package. And sometimes the words are just totally irrelevant and fun and whatever, which is great. But also there could be an expression of that with, certain powerful messages that actually are very meaningful. Well, there's already a lot of that in the psytrance scene. So I don't know if I'll ever make the effort to do that, but it's because it's a lot of a lot of buttons to learn and all that shit. It looks pretty complex, but by the time I might be ready, it might not be so hard. And that'd be another base that I just see as needing to be covered. But yeah, in the future, man, like I got to be honest, I'm not as hopeful and desperate as I am. I over the next 10 years, I hate to say it, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're in a fairly similar situation unless something really big happens. And I wish there was like I don't know what that would be, I don't know what I would love to think there could just be some really huge moves that would just go bang like nuclear vegan bombs. I call my music weapons of mass death called destruction. I wish there was just some crazy viral something, some crazy viral action or whatever it took, just to get like massive light on the issue and on the animals. And I'm doing what I think might reach that. And I reached some big reactors with my message and they thought about it, and it got pretty low views, to be honest, compared to all the effort I put in. But for first song, I'm still happy with it. Maybe more potential in the future. But yeah, just thinking about that stuff that can be has the potential to reach a lot of eyes and make people think. And I don't know, man. I just hope people keep coming up with really creative ways to make that happen. And I would love to see just some, like I just said, my Val Silence reached tens of millions of people. It took a year of being voiceless. and it was an investment in time and energy, etc., to make it happen. But I feel like it paid off very well. And even now, just conversations on the street, like what you guys are having with ASAP, when that reaches a lot of people, or even just some people, can make a big shift in people's perspectives. So, yeah, man, I think there's a lot of good stuff happening. And I know there's some big stuff coming that, sort of Dominion vibes coming from other countries and things like that I'm aware of. So, yeah, man, there could be some stuff. But, yeah, man, I don't know what it is to just get everyone being like, oh, yeah, totally. And I wish I did, and I try to think about it. And I don't know, man. I hope just everyone just keeps being creative with it, and tries to reach the masses with the obvious. What do you think?
What you said about, like, ideally you just want to go out there and tell people and show them what happens to animals, and they're like, I had no idea, I'm just gonna go vegan. I
Yeah,
think that if there is one thing that hasn't changed from day one of me being vegan, is asking that exact question from myself every goddamn day. And every time I'm trying to like clear my mind, I go, take a shower, like let's take a hot shower, maybe I just like relax. And the second I relax, I'm like, why are people eating animals? It's just like I go for a walk. I don't know, I feel like I'm sort of like jealous of people with dogs. I'm like I'm jealous of dogs. I was like, you have it so nice, my friend. I mean, you couldn't even say that
yeah,
about dogs everywhere. I get that, but it's like
yeah. A
you
lot of them are
see,
taken care of
yeah, for sure. Most of them are being
compared to
abused
other
even by
animals.
their human companion. But yeah, still, like people really love their cats and dogs, and then it's like even when I go for a walk, even when I take a shower, every single day I ask myself multiple times, what the fuck is wrong with this world? Why can't other people
Mm.
see something so obvious? But I think I would get, first of all, I also want to say, like, thank you for many, many years of dedicating your life to spreading the truth and, trying different methods, literally using your entire body, voice, lack of voice, whatever you had to help animals. I really appreciate that.
Thanks,
Also,
brother, and likewise, I appreciate you too.
yeah, thank you.
It's
And
good to see
then
people who care, man. It's good to connect with people who really care about this stuff.
I also want to encourage you that the, records that you had, um, don't let that be your records. Like, I hope that in the next couple of years and decades of fighting for animals, like that could be just a very tiny small thing, like something that maybe now people recognize you for that. Maybe that could just be lost in other things that you will accomplish in the coming years,
Mm.
um, with
Yeah, I
your
hope so, man. I hope so too. Like, there's certain things I've done that people disagree with. I've always had my heart in the right place. I've never tried to do the wrong thing. I've always just wanted the best for animals and to push this movement forward. And I've tried to be as ethical as I know how to be. Some people think differently of me. There's been a crazy amount of rumors and lies spread about me. Like, I've heard so many different things about me over the years that are just simply untrue. So I don't, I understand why some people feel like this about me. It's a shame because I've also got a massive history of doing hundreds of speeches for free and, like, helping raise tens of thousands of dollars for sanctuaries. And, I think it's pretty clear that at least some people I've always had my heart in the right place. And I'm extremely passionate and extremely moved by the situation. And yeah, man, I won't stop. Like, I haven't been so, I got banned and hacked on social media, on my Facebook and Instagram. That gave me time to just focus on writing rhymes and putting music together, which is what I've done over the last few years. And in the coming couple of years, people will see, a lot from Jimmy Cashby, a lot of music that, has never been done before in this way, covering a very important base as the genre is the most popular genre in the world. Not a lot of people could cover it in the way that I'm covering it. That's why I'm doing it, a big part. I'm using, who I am and what I am to be able to infiltrate the rap scene and put gangster rap on the map. And I think, yeah, man, people will enjoy it and appreciate it, and a lot of people will go vegan because of it. And it's ruthless. It's ruthlessly honest. So, there might be some like blips in my history. People think this or that, whatever. But at the end of the day, as hard as it has been at times to have tried to do my best and still, you know, like been through a lot of shit because of um, because of people's misunderstandings. At the end of the day, like I haven't stopped for a day. I've just been on this mission since day one of going vegan. And yeah, man, you know, that ain't stopping. Like I can't. You know, times are tough for me right now. Like, you know, I'm in a very stressful situation personally. Um, I've suffered a massive amount of pain especially over the last few years. Severe chronic pain. I've been through hell, honestly. Like it's been fucked up, man. And you know, a lot of it's stress because of how much I care about this shit and the shit I've been through and the shit I've seen, and you know, it all adds up. And you know, it's not just that. Like I got a lot of pressures. So despite all that, I'm still on the job, man, and I'm still, you know, got a lot of stuff coming. As I said, people can look at psychopathic tendencies and see how much time and effort went into that. And if you really listen to that song, you'll see that that song covers pretty much every base of what people need to hear to understand the real core of the vegan message. It's a very serious. It seems sort of like a satirical song, but it's actually a very serious diagnosis that I'm giving as Dr. Cashby. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think people feel the same about the upcoming work too. And yeah, one day, man, you know, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Like people will think what they think, and all I can do is my best. And at the end of the day, you know, in 5 years from now, some people will be like, "Yeah, great job, Jimmy Cashby," and some people will be like, "This guy did this and did that and blah blah blah." And oh well, at the end of the day, I'm not here to impress people or make friends. I'm here to just get the message out to the world and do my best to further the vegan movement. And you know, it's all part of the job, man. It's all part of the package, and having a lot of eyes on me, and having a lot of people critical, and doing some wild shit. You know, making some moves that people don't understand, and you know, it is what it is, bro. You can't impress everyone. You can't get everyone on your side. And at the end of the day, it's actually made me a lot stronger and more resilient, and just more. I've really checked in, like, who am I? Am I this person some people think I am? And it's made me a lot more confident with who I am, and a lot more able to just push through that and just be the person that I think animals need me to be. So, you know, it is what it is.
And I see that, like I can like hear it in your voice how much you still care about everything, and it's not like you talked about honesty. You know, you're not faking it. I know that how deeply you care about this, how deeply you care about this topic from day one. And I think that's
Yeah.
also an issue in the movement. I mean, there is no point really to worry about it because one, even if you don't make any mistakes, some people will find something about you to make a fuss about it. Um,
Yes.
no matter what, like you do everything
Yeah.
right, you're gonna piss off somebody.
I tried to, bro. I thought I
But
was, you know, like I don't think I made a wrong move, but not everybody agrees.
also like people still make mistakes. I mean,
That's
um,
true. Yep.
and then the thing I don't really like is when somebody makes a mistake and people completely forget about all the services that this person
Mm,
has done for movement. All it's like you know and it's okay to criticize people, and it's okay to point out
totally.
things. Like there's like something about like Gary that sometimes annoys me, is that you can criticize him. You can just say that maybe one thing, something that he said wasn't helpful. That's fine, and that's your opinion. But just like to
Absolutely.
completely forget that how many people are vegan today because of this man, because of that one
Yeah.
speech. No one here is perfect. We will make mistakes, and also there are things that people don't even know. Like, I don't want to like discuss anything like personal about anyone here, but like knowing myself, just give some other example. Like about myself, like I have misophonia, so a lot of times I'm like agitated. I didn't even know what misophonia is. If people don't know what it is, it's like being extremely sensitive to noises, to crowd,
Mm,
to like when I speak, when something there's background noise, I lose my mind.
mhm.
And it's like for a long time I was like, why is my reaction to so many things so strong, and why am I so angry inside because of so many of the. It's like, okay, it's literally a condition that I have. Like now that I know, it's a lot easier to
Yeah.
better manage. But it explains a lot. Like, you don't really know these people in person, that like what their characters are, what other personal things they have going on, and they're still fighting. And yes, they're not perfect. None of us is perfect, but we are trying and we make mistakes. And I mean, one thing I appreciate about you, like many of the things you went through, you could just say, well, so many people hate me now, or so many people think this way or that way about me. I'm gone from the face of planet. But you're like, no, I'm gonna come back. You got hacked, and you just can imagine like how annoying it is to like build that momentum, and then you're hacked, and then you're like everything
Yeah,
you built.
hacked on Facebook and banned on Instagram at almost the exact same time. So everything I built, I had nothing. You know, I had no
And
way
it's
to
like you
contact
just
anyone.
you
It's
just didn't
fucked
give
up.
up. The
Yeah,
cancer
man.
that could have stopped you didn't stop you. This didn't stop you. And so yeah, I really hope that, like, regardless, like there are always some, like, there are, I don't know, still 8 billion
No,
people out
I
there
appreciate it.
who haven't
Yeah,
heard
man.
this message, right? That the focus should be there.
Exactly, dude. That's what's important. Like, at the end of the day, I know something people need to hear. Animals need me to tell the story. I'm gonna do it in the best way I know how, like I've done from day one. People told me before I did my vow of silence, don't do your vow of silence. Animals need your voice. That's what vegans were saying. As I was explaining, oh, I'm thinking about doing this and talking in some groups.
Well, speaking of
I
that,
did
one
it.
request
Yeah,
I
go ahead.
have from you is to please just encourage, don't give up on vegans. I think like encouraging your vegan audience. You know how we were talking about
Mm.
how non-vegans don't know how to get active? Non-vegans don't know how to go vegan.
Uh-huh.
Vegans also don't know how to get active. They don't have a clue. They're like, okay, I don't really like talking to people. Fine, just don't talk about it. It's just like,
Mm.
it's just so ironic that you just didn't talk to people, and that was your way of activism, which worked better than anything else, right? So yeah,
Yeah,
donate if
it
you
is
can
ironic.
donate. I don't fucking know. Just like,
Yep.
share a
Yeah, there's
video.
always something.
There is always something they
Totally.
don't know.
Man,
So
it's never been easier, man. Like, you know, one thing I would just give as a practical tip to people is there's so many people out there sharing the corpses they're eating. Like, this is the biggest situation. You know, I know people don't want to focus on a thing, but 99% of animals that are enslaved, it is because of food. They use them for food. So it's just the reality. So, you know, I know we should like focus on the core and everything, but also I don't think there's any problem with calling people corpse eaters as a way to, you know, like get in ahead of what they're doing and be specific about this. So there's so many people out there sharing their food, sharing their dead animals on their plate and, you know, being very proud of it. And these are easy things to just be honest, like react to, share your opinion. You know, this is fucking crazy. And what are these people doing? And what you could just eat this. There's a lot of easy stuff to do. But yeah, man. You know, it is what it is. Like as I said, I had vegans from the beginning saying, "Don't do this, don't do that." You know, I had look. The situation we're kind of tiptoeing around a little bit here is at one point about 4 years ago, I said if you've ever wanted to donate to me, now would be a good time. I had something that I felt was a very strong move, and I invested into a crypto, and soon later it tripled. And then 3 months later, everything in like over $1 trillion or something like that got pulled out of crypto and everything dropped. So people were like, you did a pump and dump, but that's not how pump and dumps work. You know, people think that I inflated the coin by telling my audience who I've never talked about crypto to that oh guys, like check this out. You should look into this, right? I had my information. I was confident. You guys should look into this. That's what I said. And within 3 months, I brought $20,000 back into the movement to needy sanctuaries and amazing organizations, which I did through live streams. No one ever talks about that part. No one ever thinks about that part. No one ever sees that the move actually paid off and worked. There's not a single victim in this case. No one, basically nobody would have taken my advice anyway, but anyone who did, that's their choice. I said, check this out. They would have tripled their money if they did. Not because I said it because that was happening. We were confident. You know, like, you know, I can't go into too much about it, but let's just say I was very confident. You know, it is what it is. Like, it's a gamble, but it worked out, right? I brought the money back into the movement. Like I said, all I said was I'm going to multiply this stack, and I did exactly that. And people like, you did this, you did that. You know, anyone who actually did it, not that I said do it, but I said do your own research. Anyone who did it would have tripled their money and had 3 months to take their money if they wanted to. And if they didn't take it after 3 months of having their money tripled, that ain't a problem for me. Like that is what it is. But literally no one took my advice anyway. All I was trying to do was help vegans like I always do. Say, guys, this might be something to look into, you know? I didn't expect many people to do it. I never expected it to be a big thing. It worked out in my favor. It worked out in the animals' favor. And yet this was seen as this like massive scam that I pulled. I lost over 100,000 followers on my Instagram, partly because of this and partly because I started going really hard on this is a Holocaust, the animal Holocaust, the animal Holocaust. I thought it's very important to get that conversation happening, that this is an anti-Holocaust movement. And for people who were used to me, which is more peaceful activism, encouraging education, you know, inspiration, it was too big of a change. And, you know, it is what it is. Like, it is what it is. So I lost a lot of people. I got a lot of people, like, that's just one of the things, man. People told me that I cheated on my ex with my new partner, which isn't how, you know, with my wife, which is not at all how things went down. People heard that I was a abuser of my, you know, of ex-girlfriend as well. Never happened. People told, there's a whole story in Daily Mail about me killing puppies when what I did was go to a fucking sewer, crawling through God knows what, with dead puppies there. And there was like, I can't remember how many, 2 or 3 I rescued. We came back the next day, rescued the mum. Unfortunately, despite our best efforts with multiple vets, one of them died. And people were like, you killed the puppy. You should have done this. You should have done that.
It doesn't surprise me, right? Like vegans are saying the same thing about PETA, which is like, they just have no idea. And by the way, there is like a whole meat industry propaganda against like PETA. I'm like, you realize you're literally are a talking head for meat industry. It's just like the dumb shit that yeah, the rumors and all that. But
yeah,
one thing I know about you is that like if you wanted to make money and like get followers, vegan advocacy is not the best way to go about it. Like that for sure. Like if you,
dude, I'm fucking broke as can be quite honest with you. When I was 18, I was making Australian, so probably more like $40 an hour as a personal trainer, selling programs, selling this. I was making amazing cash when I was 18, when I was a personal trainer. When I was working on the cruise ship, I wasn't paying any rent, any food, I was the top of the fleet. James Aspey at the top, making more money than anybody in all the gyms going around. I fucking had it down pat, dude. I knew what I was doing. I knew how to make money. Now, as an advocate, all I've had is monetary stress pretty much. And, you know, I don't sell shit. Like I've sold a few t-shirts over the years. People are like, you're just in it for the money. I've mentioned my Patreon about 5 times in my life. I get $60 a month. Like it's crazy people think this shit of me. All the times I've ever asked for money was not for me. It was for giving to sanctuaries, and I help them so much, dude. So look, like there's a group about me and like posting all these screenshots and trying to tell this fucking narrative about me. And like, you know, I've done I think like a 3-hour live stream with my wife called fucking exposing my obsessed stalkers. Because they would post every single, I was in their group. I know what they were saying. They didn't know I had access. They were, every single thing I would say, they would pick it apart. Every single meal I made, like just fucking everything, dude. It was crazy shit, and it's still going on. And yeah, look, as I'm trying to say, you know, at the end of the day, fuck it, help me, because I really care. I don't care what people say now. I'm so used to people being wrong about me. Now I'm just like, whatever. Here's my work. Fucking there you go. That's for the animals, not for you. I don't give a shit if you like me. Boom. Psychopathic tendencies, brainwashed zombies, logic in the court, you know, all this fucking stuff that's coming, man. And I hope that I get some Jimmy Cashby fans, and I hope that I can monetize this shit, because, you know, it's a tough ride. Like, I don't know why people are thinking I'm all about the fucking cash, but there's no evidence of that at all. But yeah, man, at the end of the day, like, as you said, in time, I already thought I was in a position where I could do something like that and say, look, I've just got this going on. I'm going to be able to multiply this stack. And I did. I didn't expect it to be this whole fucking thing. It was just one of many moves that I was making. And it turned into this fucking massive ordeal. So, you know, it is what it is. We've all, like, you mentioned Gary. Gary's done things that have also made people like question him or be skeptical of him. I fucking get it. I just said nobody's perfect, but I can say very honestly that all I've ever tried to do is the right thing. I've never tried to rip anyone off, especially the fucking vegans that follow and support me. People think like there's rumors that I got donated hundreds of thousands of dollars and shit. They're like, "Where's the money? Where's the money?" What money? I've shown people my Patreon, my PayPal. I've taken through all my everything I got. It was six and a bit $1,000. You know, that's fucking it. I did a quick shout out. Like the week before, I said, "Yo, there's these. We rescued those dogs. So there's this dog place. They need help, and we also rescued like I can't remember if it was $6,000 or $10,000. It was just what I was doing. It was just what I do. It's not like I was pocketing a single fucking dollar from that shit. So yeah, but at the end of the day, man, once there's a Jimmy Cashby catalog, you know, I already thought after what I'd done, like I had a good credibility, and I did have good credibility. And although it's been affected, I think unfairly, in time, yeah, the credibility will build, and more people, I think, will be like, "Oh, this guy's fucking legit." Like, you know, he probably had his heart in the right place, even if they think you shouldn't have done that or whatever. Which, okay, fine.
But
But
at
at
the
the
end
end
of
of the day, I
it,
had my
like
heart.
I think the only thing that matters, like to me, is like where are you gonna be? Like I only care about one thing. 5 years from now, I just hope that if you reach that to let's say 100 millions of people so far with everything that you've done altogether, I just hope that you beat that number. And
Man, that's
yeah,
epic. I
that's
love to hear it.
that's the
That's
only thing
perfect.
I care about. More people hear
Yeah.
what you have to
Fuck
say.
yeah. That's all. Nah, you're
I would
100%
say,
right, bro. Like, I don't give a fuck. Think what you just want, but here's my work. You let my work speak. Like, what does this say? What is psychopathic tendencies saying? What is this? This is fucking brand new. Like, in my opinion, this is a revolutionary piece of art. My first song expressing veganism very powerfully with a very powerful music video. This is my first one,
yeah, I
you know,
can't
it's
wait to watch it.
learning.
So
Yeah,
tell
man,
me.
check it out. Maybe, yeah, there's 18 plus on my Patreon. It's free to watch, and there's the normal one on YouTube. But like, yeah, man, I really appreciate you saying that. Thank you so much for supporting and encouraging me to, again, just reach even more people than I already have. That's exactly what I'm trying to do with the Jimmy Cashby project. Man, I'm doing the best I can with what I've got, with the money
And
I got
my
in my
only
pocket,
request,
with the
one
access
thing
I got.
I'm really like requesting you to do is like encourage vegans to get active. Not like in this. I mean, whoever watches this, but
Yeah, I'll make a song
make
about it.
yeah,
No, it
make a
doesn't matter,
song.
dude.
Or
I will.
honestly, you still have a decent like social media platform. So even like
Definitely.
posting something that vegans get active and here are 5 things that you can do today. Just go to this page and just
Great idea.
reshare one of the videos. I don't really care, like whatever it is. But I
Yeah,
think like
that's cool.
motivating vegans is one of the most important thing we can do. And I would
Mm.
say in terms of like where I get my hope, I really think like I still believe in alternative proteins too. One thing that gives me hope is that a lot of these products still like with all the pushback, it's a lot easier to be vegan today than like 10 years ago. The vegan
Definitely.
cheese, the first vegan cheese absolutely, sucked. But it's like, like, real cheese or the, I guess, product of animal torture. It's like that existed for thousands of years of, it's a result of thousands of years of R&D versus like a lot of vegan products are a result of 10 or maximum 20 years of
Exactly.
R&D. And so
Mm.
who could like 15 years ago, like, I wouldn't have believed that every coffee shop would have at least 3 types of plant-based milk. So it is
Absolutely.
happening.
You're right,
There's
man.
going to be pushback. There's going to be 2 step forward, 1 step back. But that's it gives me
Yeah.
hope knowing that these products will be so much better in like 10,
Mm.
20 years from now. I also
Very
look at
true.
them as catalysts. So I think that it makes going vegan a lot easier, but they're not
Mm.
enough by themselves. What makes it enough is people still have to be exposed. And I think what I'm trying to do is to bring this education in universities where you can like expose the youngest, most open-minded people in masses. So like my more like recent motto is like educate everyone, inspire the few. So in universities, you educate everybody. Everybody gets to watch the
Mm.
footage. Everybody gets to question, but not everybody changes. But that's okay. Then few of them or a smaller group that wants to go vegan, then you inspire them to become influential and powerful and like really change the world. That's like how you get that exponential impact. But yeah, so that's why I still have
Yep.
hope. I know that the
Absolutely, bro.
solution is right in front of us if we do it.
Yes. Yeah,
You
it's
know?
there. We got the answers and we got what everyone needs. We just need as many eyes on it as possible, and get the conversation on the table. I got a song called Brainwash Zombies, and it's like it goes had bigger crowds than most rappers ever seen. I did it without rhyming and I didn't do it to a beat. 20,000 passionate vegans marching on the street. It was a world record, yet it still felt pathetic. How did we have that big of a crowd and not figure out how to immediately shut every single motherfucking slaughterhouse down? We need more than holding signs and marching around. We should have mass hunger strike. Fuck about science. That would be loud. That would cause a massive divide. Who else believes going out for the cause is the worthwhile way to die? Unlike the thousands of sentient beings sacrificed so you could shove them all directly into your pie hole. Anything to get a conversation on and corpses off the table. So anything that gets the fucking conversation going, man, because we win the conversation every single time. Every single debate about animal rights, vegans win. So it's just about getting it on the table, bro. And yeah, getting as many eyes on it as possible. And what you guys are doing is fucking awesome. You're getting eyes on exactly the problem. You're talking about exactly the core issue. You're spreading it to every university, and you're putting the conversations on the internet. Like, boom, epic work. I think you don't need to change anything. Just grow. You know,
Yeah.
you already got a great method going on, man. Love to see it.
That's a plan. Well,
Fuck
thanks so much
yeah.
again. I think this was
Hell yeah.
fantastic. We're approaching 3 hours, so that's.
Yeah, bro.
Thank you for your time.
Fuck you. Nah,
Yeah,
likewise, man. Appreciate it. It's great to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks again, and whoever was watching this online, so thanks for sticking around for such a long time. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
looking forward to not giving up and I guess growing.
Growing, bro. Yeah, as I said, you got it going on. Just spread exactly what you're already doing. And I appreciate the support, bro. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It goes a long way, and I'm motivated after this conversation to reach more people than I ever have. So I appreciate you, man. Keep rocking. You're a fucking legend, dude. Legend. The doc. Good shit, brother. Keep it up, man. We'll chat again some other time.
Thank you. Sounds good.
All right, brother.
Alrighty.
Yes, cool. Peace, man.
Adios.
Adios.